Hi everyone, please subscribe to my channel. Blood Immortal Venerable. See playlist for other chapters and novels. Join now our Telegram channel now and enjoy exclusive early access. t.me/blood_immortal_official. I do not translate the novels. Credits goes to original translator and author of the novel. I only make it as an audiobook so it would be easier to just listen while doing other things. Credits goes to the author of the novel. I convert stories to audiobook for mental health, for multitasking purpose, for accessibility and time saving. Listening to audiobook is also beneficial for people who have disability. It improves our listening skills and improve our English comprehension, vocabulary and other things. So, thank you for listening. Thank you and thank you very much for your support. Chapter 41. The Crisis of Tia Base. Sis, this is the basic body forging technique. Watch closely as I demonstrate it for you. Yi Tian stood in the courtyard, personally showing his younger sister Yi Yu the basics of body forging. Yi Yu was a quick learner. In just 7 or 8 days, she had fully grasped the basic body forging technique. After that, she was free to cultivate on her own. Initially, Yi Tian didn't provide her with any beast blood. He wanted her to build a solid foundation first. Only after she had reached the level of a martial disciple did he give her low-level beast blood to aid her cultivation. While Yi Yu was cultivating, Yi Tian didn't waste any time either. After this period of cultivation, his strength had increased significantly, reaching 35,000 jin. With the amplification of his high-level strength talent, this was equivalent to 350,000 jin. His rate of progress was enough to make countless martial warriors blush with shame. Yet, Yi Tian was still not satisfied. He knew he only had high-level cultivation talent. What about those with top-level or even higher talents? Wouldn't their progress be even more exaggerated? Therefore, he had to quickly enhance his abilities, replicate more talents to enrich himself. Sooner or later, his talents would be unparalleled on Earth, and even in the entire starry ocean. Almost there. In a few more days, I'll be able to replicate another talent, Yi Tian said, somewhat expectantly. That day, Yi Tian went to the wilderness, preparing to hunt another batch of mid-level beasts. He needed mid-level beast blood for his cultivation, a resource that was incredibly scarce. Even in the black market, it was rarely seen, and if it did appear, it was quickly bought by martial warriors from large families. Yi Tian could occasionally buy mid-level beast blood, but the quantity was too small. His high-level cultivation talent allowed him to refine mid-level beast blood at an extremely fast rate, consuming far more than other elite martial warriors. Naturally, he needed to go to the wilderness to replenish his supply. However, as he walked on the streets, he noticed many martial warriors walking in groups, carrying large and small bags. He could vaguely see various supplies and daily necessities. The key issue was that these martial warriors were quite unfamiliar, not like those from Linhai Base. So many elite martial warriors. Yi Tian observed one of the teams and found more than a dozen elite martial warriors, expressing his surprise. The key was that there was more than one such team. Along the way, he had encountered at least 3 such teams. These must be martial warriors from other bases, Yi Tian speculated. So many martial warriors suddenly entering Linhai Base indicated that something significant had happened. Although Linhai Base had trade relations with Tia Base, it was unlikely that they would send so many elite martial warriors. These teams didn't look like merchant groups, they seemed more like they had come to settle. Yi Tian didn't think much of it and left the base to hunt beasts. freewebnovel.com. Meanwhile, at the Lin family residence, Lin Wanli and Lin Zi, along with several other top martial warriors, were all frowning deeply. Big brother, is the information accurate? Lin Zi asked with a furrowed brow. Lin Wanli sighed, the information was sent by our undercover agents in Tia Base, it's definitely true. I've long felt that Tia Base's actions were abnormal. They couldn't be helping Linhai Base so selflessly. As expected, they've fallen into such a dire situation that they're considering moving into our Linhai Base. When he first received the news, he couldn't believe it was true. After multiple confirmations, the information was found to be accurate. Although Tia Base was a medium-sized base with 2 grandmasters and dozens of elite martial warriors, it was still at the bottom of the medium-sized bases. This time, a massive beast horde was discovered near Tia Base. The leader of this horde was on the verge of evolving into a king-level beast. Once that happened, the horde would inevitably expand, and Tia Base would be the first to bear the brunt. If they could stop this beast horde, the crisis at Tia Base could naturally be averted. However, the problem was that Tia Base was no match for this horde. As for seeking help from stronger individuals from other large bases, that was also hopeless. Taa base had tried but failed to enlist their aid. To protect the people of their base, Taa base prepared to move to the nearest Linhai base. However, they were concerned that Linhai base might not be willing to accept them, which led to the proposal of a trade cooperation route. The other elite martial warriors of the Lin family were also full of worries. Once the martial warriors from Taa base moved into Linhai base, the balance of power in Linhai base would inevitably be disrupted. The Lin family might even lose its control over Linhai base. Big brother, why don't we refuse to let the martial warriors from Taa base enter Linhai base? Lin Zi suggested. It's too late for that, Lin Wanli shook his head. We've already signed a contract with Taa base. If we go back on our word, they'll have an excuse to take action against our Lin family. They're using trade as a pretext to gradually send a large number of martial warriors into Linhai base. Once a large number of martial warriors and civilians from Taa base arrive, Linhai base will no longer be our Linhai base. Everyone pondered for a long time and concluded that they were helpless. We can only take it one step at a time, Lin Wanli said. By evening, Yi Tian returned with some mid-level beast materials and a large amount of mid-level beast blood. After inquiring about the situation, he learned that a large number of people from Taa base had moved into Linhai base. They were not doing business but were renting entire buildings and villas, as if planning to stay here long-term. In the following days, news spread that people from Taa base were leaving their base to move into Linhai base. They were even building houses on the outskirts of Linhai base, planning to expand the base to accommodate more people. The Lin family couldn't stop this, as the land outside Linhai base was not part of the base but belonged to the wilderness area. Building houses there didn't break any rules. The reason for Taa base's move also came out. They were threatened by beasts and were on the brink of destruction. When Yi Tian heard this news, he was shocked. That was a medium-sized base with even 2 grandmasters. If such a base couldn't hold on, then Linhai base was relatively lucky to be in a safe area. But if Taa base fell, who knew when that beast horde might come to Linhai base, putting it at risk of destruction as well. I must become stronger as quickly as possible. Only greater strength can ensure the safety of both myself and my sister, Yi Tian urgently thought. So, he redoubled his efforts in cultivation, and his rate of strength increase accelerated. One day, while reading a large amount of information on various beasts at home, he prepared to find a super-fast beast and replicate its talent. Suddenly, his eyes stopped on the information of a particular beast. Black Panther Wolf. Chapter 42. Advanced Speed Talent. The Black Panther Wolf was a low-level beast, but its speed surpassed that of most mid-level beasts. What was even more important was that people had spotted the Black Panther Wolf near Linhai base. However, due to its incredible speed, even elite martial warriors couldn't catch up with it, so they had given up on hunting it. Shaocheni Forest, Yi Tian muttered as he looked at the information. This was where the Black Panther Wolf had been spotted. Yi Tian didn't know much about Shaocheni Forest, only that it was vast, reportedly stretching for thousands of miles. The part near Linhai base was just a small section or perhaps a branch of it. Located 18 kilometers west of Linhai base, few martial warriors ventured into Shaocheni Forest. The main reason was that the outskirts of the forest had few beasts, mostly just ferocious animals. Only when one went several miles deep into the forest would they encounter beasts, including mid-level and even high-level ones. The deeper one went into Shaocheni Forest, the more dangerous it became. However, the beasts in Shaocheni Forest rarely ventured out, so they posed little threat to Linhai base. My cultivation speed has slowed down considerably. Shaocheni Forest is indeed a good place for training. If I can find the Black Panther Wolf, I'll achieve my goal. If not, I can still replicate any suitable talents I come across and cultivate there for a while, Yi Tian thought. In fact, he had long wanted to venture out. After all, Linhai base was just a small base with limited resources, making it difficult to find suitable talents to replicate. Staying here would only hinder his cultivation speed. Previously, he had been concerned about his sister, but now that she had started cultivating and the threat from the Mo family had been eliminated, everything should be fine as long as he hired a few bodyguards to protect her. Who should I get to protect my sister? Yi Tian pondered. Suddenly, he thought of someone, Feng Lang. Feng Lang was the leader of the Feng Lang hunting squad, which mostly stayed within the base to maintain order. The squad was quite capable, and as long as no elite martial warriors took action, they could handle the situation. Moreover, he didn't need the Feng Lang hunting squad to protect his sister Yi Yu all the time, just to covertly keep an eye on her and intervene if she ran into trouble. They had plenty of members, so sending 1 or 2 would suffice. It was a minor matter. So, Yi Tian personally went to find Feng Lang and offered 10 vials of mid-level beast blood as compensation. Feng Lang naturally agreed immediately. Shao Cheni Forest. Yi Tian arrived here, and as soon as he entered the forest, he saw towering trees that were incredibly large, reaching heights of tens of meters, some even over 100 meters. Each tree had a diameter of 2 to 4 meters. After walking for several hundred meters, Yi Tian found that the information was accurate. The outskirts had almost no beasts, just some ferocious animals. It was as if Shao Cheni Forest had a strict hierarchy. Ferocious animals could only live in the outskirts, while beasts lived deeper inside but couldn't casually enter the area of the ferocious animals. Of course, this was just speculation and had not been verified. After running for several miles and passing numerous giant trees, he finally began to see some beasts and stopped. He had to be cautious here, as he could occasionally encounter high-level beasts. Some powerful high-level beasts and those with special talents were not something he could handle at the moment. For several days, Yi Tian searched this area for the Black Panther wolf but found nothing. However, he did manage to hunt several mid-level beasts and obtained a good amount of mid-level beast blood, so he didn't have to worry about that for a while. If only I had a talent for wide-range sensing, I might be able to find the Black Panther wolf quickly, Yi Tian fantasized. As he walked, Yi Tian was thrilled to discover tracks resembling those of leopards or wolves. Not just 1 or 2, but a whole group. Black Panther wolves are somewhat like wolves but are actually a type of leopard. Their paw prints look very similar to these tracks on the ground. Maybe it's a group of Black Panther wolves, Yi Tian speculated. Whether it was true or not, he had to check it out. So, Yi Tian activated triple speed and followed the paw prints. After sprinting for several miles, he stopped. At that moment, he felt a strong surge of elemental energy. There's a battle ahead. Yi Tian's expression turned serious. It was unlikely to encounter humans here, so it must be beasts. It was normal for beasts to fight each other. After all, there were many different groups of beasts, and they couldn't all coexist peacefully. Even within the human race, there were conflicts and fights. He moved forward several hundred meters, and the sounds of battle grew louder, accompanied by strange cries. That is, freewebnovel.com. Yi Tian saw a clearing where numerous giant trees had already fallen. About 1,000 Black Panther wolves were attacking a large gorilla, but the one with the upper hand was the gorilla. A high-level beast, and not just any high-level beast. It's one with combat power comparable to a peak-level martial warrior. Yi Tian dared not reveal his presence and did his best to hide, even activating his shadow talent to blend into the shadows of the giant trees. This gorilla's combat power was similar to Qing Lao's, whom he had met before, and was much stronger than he was. He was not a match for it, and his speed was a disadvantage. If he were to fight this gorilla, he wouldn't be able to escape. His shadow talent wouldn't be able to deceive a high-level beast, he could only rely on his top-tier healing talent to save his life. But if he couldn't escape, being continuously beaten by the gorilla might actually kill him. Can't mess with that gorilla, Yi Tian decided, shifting his focus to the Black Panther wolves. These Black Panther wolves were his target, but they were faring very poorly. Hundreds had already been killed in battle, yet they hadn't fled and were still attacking the gorilla fearlessly. Ah, these Black Panther wolves are so foolish. If you can't win, just run. Why fight to the death? Yi Tian shook his head, thinking the Black Panther wolves were irrational. Suddenly, Yi Tian's eyes lit up as they landed on one of the Black Panther wolves. No, it should be called a Golden Panther wolf because its entire body was golden, making it look incredibly noble. And it was indeed noble. It was a mid-level beast, and its speed was even faster than the gorilla's. The gorilla couldn't catch it, but this Golden Panther wolf couldn't break through the gorilla's defense either. Wow, this Golden Panther wolf's speed talent must be higher than that of the regular Black Panther wolves. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so extraordinary. It's a mid-level beast but is faster than a high-level peak beast like the gorilla. It's unbelievable. Could it be an advanced speed talent? The thought made Yi Tian's breath quicken. If he could acquire this talent, his strength would undoubtedly skyrocket. Chapter 43. Golden Silk Panther Wolf, Top-Tier Speed Talent. Yi Tian continued to observe from the shadows, waiting for the outcome of the battle between the two sides. About half an hour had passed, and the number of Black Panther wolves had dwindled to just 200 or 300. The ground was littered with their corpses. Such a heavy toll had already struck at the very foundation of the Black Panther wolf clan, yet they still hadn't retreated. After such a long period of fighting, the gorilla was severely drained, both in terms of speed and strength, and its reactions had slowed. Suddenly, the gorilla let out a miserable scream. Yi Tian saw it clearly. The golden panther wolf had seized the opportunity when the gorilla's reactions had slowed. It accelerated instantly and, before the gorilla could react, clawed out one of its eyes. Having lost an eye, the gorilla panicked and began to flee. However, it was far too slow compared to the golden panther wolf, and the other black panther wolves fearlessly blocked its path. Eventually, the golden panther wolf clawed out its other eye when it was off guard. Blinded and severely weakened, the gorilla was overwhelmed. A large number of black panther wolves bit and clawed at its wounds, using sheer numbers to overpower it. Finally, the gorilla fell, its life gradually fading away. In this battle, the Black Panther Wolf clan had lost over 1,000 members, but they had managed to kill a high-level beast like the gorilla. Whether it was worth it or not was debatable. But Yi Tian knew that the credit for this victory mainly belonged to the Golden Panther Wolf. Its strength was not weak, almost reaching the level of a high-level beast, and its speed was incredibly fast. That's how it managed to blind the gorilla, otherwise, no amount of Black Panther wolves would have been able to harm it. "It's my turn now," Yi Tian said, a bit excited. He wasn't afraid of these Black Panther wolves, not even the Golden Panther Wolf. The gorilla had been defeated because it was severely drained and had its eyes clawed out by the Golden Panther Wolf. But he was different, he had top-tier healing talent. Even if he was severely injured, he could quickly heal and recover, so he wasn't worried that the Golden Panther Wolf could kill him. Whoosh! Yi Tian charged forward, instantly killing a Black Panther Wolf. At that moment, the Golden Panther Wolf, which was feasting on the gorilla's corpse, noticed Yi Tian's presence and roared angrily. This area was its territory, and any creature that intruded had to die. So, the Golden Panther Wolf took action itself. It sensed that Yi Tian's aura was far weaker than the gorilla's. A creature like this could be killed with a single swipe of its paw. So fast, Yi Tian's eyes couldn't even catch the shadow of the Golden Panther Wolf. He only felt a pain in his body as a claw slashed across him. Heal. In the blink of an eye, his wound healed, and he recovered. Not far away, the Golden Panther Wolf looked at Yi Tian in shock. It had clearly slashed open Yi Tian's body and even saw his stomach ripped open. How could it be that in the blink of an eye, Yi Tian's stomach was as good as new? What a pity, Yi Tian thought. Yi Tian looked at the Golden Panther Wolf and sighed. In that split second earlier, he had tried to scan the beast's talents, but its speed was too fast, exceeding his cognitive reaction time. As a result, he only managed to catch a fleeting glimpse of its talents and didn't have time to copy them. However, Yi Tian had to admit that the talents of the Golden Panther Wolf were extraordinary, even more terrifying than he had anticipated. Its real name wasn't even Golden Panther Wolf, it was actually called Golden Silk Dragon Panther. Species: Golden Silk Dragon Panther. Bloodline talent: top tier. Speed talent: top tier. Stamina talent: medium. Healing talent: basic. Among these, the stamina talent was related to physical strength. The Golden Silk Dragon Panther had been able to fight the gorilla for so long without showing signs of weakness thanks to its medium-level stamina talent, which made it incredibly robust. What an incredible set of talents! With a top-tier bloodline talent, this Golden Silk Dragon Panther is destined to become a top-tier beast in the future if it doesn't die young. And with so many talents, once it grows up, it could slaughter a whole clan of masters, Yi Tian suddenly thought. He really wanted to eliminate this Golden Silk Dragon Panther, but his strength was far inferior. He could only rely on his healing talent to survive. Soon, the Golden Silk Dragon Panther launched another attack on Yi Tian. Again, Yi Tian didn't have time to react, his neck was almost clawed off. Fortunately, his healing talent didn't let him down, and he survived. At this moment, Yi Tian finally succeeded in copying the creature's top-tier speed talent. I must fight back. If it claws my head off, I might not survive, Yi Tian thought. So, he drew his knife, displaying a series of shadow-killing moves, forming a wall of blade energy around him. The blade energy was strong enough to pose a threat to the Golden Silk Dragon Panther. Even if the Golden Silk Dragon Panther was incredibly fast, as long as it couldn't break through the wall of blade energy, it couldn't harm him. If it tried to force its way through, it would injure itself. Retreat, retreat, retreat. Yi Tian kept retreating, fleeing to another location. The Golden Silk Dragon Panther tried to attack a few times but collided with the blade energy, almost breaking its own claws. Knife techniques can indeed counter speed. Otherwise, I might not have been able to escape, Yi Tian thought, still shaken. After running a certain distance, he found that the golden silk dragon panther had given up the chase. Phew, finally got away. Luckily, the golden silk dragon panther gave up. Otherwise, my physical and elemental energy wouldn't have lasted much longer, especially since continuously using shadow-killing moves drains so much energy. Yi Tian sighed in relief. He had to admit that he had been a bit reckless this time. He had thought he had nothing to fear from the golden silk dragon panther, but he had underestimated its terrifying capabilities. Watching a battle and actually fighting were two completely different experiences. If not for his multiple trump cards, he wouldn't have escaped today. Of course, the risk had brought significant rewards. Top-tier speed talent, ha ha ha. Once I integrate it, why would I need to fear the golden silk dragon panther? I won't even have to fear top-tier beasts like the gorilla. Yi Tian was full of confidence. Afterward, he found a towering tree, carved a hole in it, and hollowed out a small wooden room. Then he sealed the hole and began to seclude himself inside the tree to integrate the top-tier speed talent. Let the integration begin. Chapter 44. The ferocious beast surrenders. Chapter 44. The ferocious beast surrenders. Every time Yi Tian integrated a new talent, it was a transformative experience for him. Although painful, the benefits were more than enough to make the pain worthwhile. Having integrated many talents before, the process of integrating the top-tier speed talent wasn't as painful as he had imagined. Soon, the integration was complete. Yi Tian immediately checked his talent status, a habit of his and also the most exhilarating moment. Human, Yi Tian, cultivation talent, high level. Speed talent, top tier. Blade talent, medium level. Shadow talent, basic. Healing talent, top tier. Strength talent, high level. Seeing the top tier healing and speed talents, Yi Tian couldn't help but smile. He wondered how great it would be if all his other talents could also reach the top tier level. Let's test this top tier speed. Yi Tian stepped out of the giant tree, activated his speed talent, and gave it a try. Whoosh! In an instant, Yi Tian covered a distance of 100 meters. He felt as if he had broken through some kind of barrier in the air. Speed of sound. The term popped into Yi Tian's mind. The speed of sound in air is about 340 meters per second. But Yi Tian's speed was far beyond that, many times faster than the speed of sound. After several tests, Yi Tian finally had an understanding of his speed, 10 times the speed of sound. My speed has reached 3,400 meters per second, while my previous speed was at most 170 meters per second. According to this ratio, the speed increase from the top-tier speed talent is 20 times. Yi Tian thought to himself. A 20-fold increase was already quite exaggerated, especially since this increase ignored any cultivation levels. By Yi Tian's estimation, even among human grand warriors, the limit should only be 5 or 6 times the speed of sound. Yet, his speed had already surpassed the limit for grand warriors. If I reach the level of a grand warrior, my speed will be even more outrageous, he thought. With my current strength, dealing with peak grand warriors shouldn't be a problem. Yi Tian was extremely pleased. He had been far from reaching the peak grand warrior level, but now a single top-tier speed talent had made up for the gap in combat power. For him, copying powerful talents was a shortcut to rapidly increasing his strength. However, such opportunities were not easy to come by. This time, it was a combination of good luck and daring that allowed him to copy the golden silk dragon panther's speed talent, resulting in such a transformative boost in his abilities. It's time to deal with the golden silk dragon panther. Yi Tian was no longer afraid of the creature. In terms of speed, he was not much slower than the golden silk dragon panther. Perhaps because of its higher cultivation level, the creature's speed might reach 12 or 13 times the speed of sound. However, the gap between 10 times and 12 or 13 times the speed of sound was not so large that he couldn't react. Yi Tian's advantages were significant. His top-tier healing talent ensured rapid healing, and his attack power exceeded that of an average grand warrior, something the golden silk dragon panther couldn't match. In terms of overall strength, Yi Tian had completely surpassed the golden silk dragon panther and naturally had nothing to fear. So, Yi Tian retraced his steps. Found them, they haven't left. Yi Tian saw a group of black panther wolves surrounding the golden silk dragon panther. At that moment, the golden silk dragon panther was asleep, lying beside the half-eaten corpse of the gorilla. The golden silk dragon panther must be digesting the gorilla's body. It seems that consuming the flesh of other beasts can increase its strength, much like how we humans refine beast blood to enhance our abilities, Yi Tian speculated. With the golden silk dragon panther's talents, fully absorbing the gorilla's body would likely give it a slight boost in strength. While it wouldn't suddenly break through to a higher level, it would still gain a considerable amount of power. Yi Tian didn't want to give it that opportunity. Golden Silk Dragon Panther, let's have another round. Yi Tian jumped out and shouted loudly, waking up the Golden Silk Dragon Panther. Its ferocious face and murderous eyes seemed to say, "Human, you're as good as dead." Whoosh, the Golden Silk Dragon Panther disappeared. Had Yi Tian not integrated the top-tier speed talent, he wouldn't have been able to perceive it. But now, he saw it clearly. Just as the panther's claws were about to touch him, Yi Tian dodged in the nick of time. At the same time, Yi Tian slashed with his blade. With the boost from his top-tier speed talent and the speed of his shadow strike technique, Yi Tian's attack was faster than one could imagine. A splattering sound. Caught off guard, the Golden Silk Dragon Panther couldn't dodge Yi Tian's shadow strike, and a gash was cut into its back. It was injured. The Golden Silk Dragon Panther retreated, its large eyes incredulously staring at Yi Tian, as if asking, "How can you be so fast?" It remembered that it could easily attack Yi Tian before. But now, Yi Tian had dodged its attack and was almost as fast as it was. This was the first time it had encountered a creature weaker than itself in terms of cultivation but nearly as fast. The Golden Silk Dragon Panther didn't back down and charged at Yi Tian again. Shadow Strike, Shadow Strike, Shadow Strike. Yi Tian repeatedly executed shadow strikes, causing the Golden Silk Dragon Panther to sustain continuous injuries. After all, the panther's attack power hadn't reached the level of a high-tier beast, so it was no match for Yi Tian. Each collision resulted in injuries, and only its sturdy body saved it from worse. Had Yi Tian possessed a better weapon, he might have split the Golden Silk Dragon Panther in half with a single strike. After about a dozen moves, the Golden Silk Dragon Panther was covered in blood and its condition had deteriorated significantly. Initially determined to fight to the death, it now considered fleeing. It didn't want to die. Whoosh, the Golden Silk Dragon Panther turned to run, even abandoning its own pack. "You're injured and slower than before. Where do you think you're going?" Yi Tian chased after it. After only about 10 miles, he caught up with the Golden Silk Dragon Panther and almost cut it in half with a fierce slash. The Golden Silk Dragon Panther fell not far away, its breath extremely weak, clearly unable to escape any further. Just as Yi Tian was about to deliver the killing blow, the Golden Silk Dragon Panther suddenly did something that shocked him. It actually made a gesture of kneeling and kept kowtowing towards Yi Tian. Its meaning was clear, it was submitting to Yi Tian. P.S. If you enjoy this story, please leave a review on Novel Updates. Thanks. Chapter 45, My First Beast Pet. Chapter 45, My First Beast Pet. Are you submitting to me? Yi Tian looked at the Golden Silk Dragon Panther with interest. However, he didn't let his guard down, fearing that the panther might be feigning surrender to launch a surprise attack. But the likelihood of that was low, given the panther's severe injuries. The Golden Silk Dragon Panther nodded, apparently understanding Yi Tian's words. Yi Tian had long known that some special beasts were highly intelligent and could understand human speech, but they were rare. He hadn't expected to encounter one today. "I'm not entirely sure I can trust you. What if you change your mind after you've healed?" Yi Tian said coldly. Suddenly, a faint light appeared on the forehead of the Golden Silk Dragon Panther. The light instantly broke through the air and entered Yi Tian's mind. At that moment, Yi Tian's first reaction was that he had been ambushed. But then a childlike voice rang out. "Master." The voice sounded like that of a 3-year-old child, but Yi Tian knew who it belonged to. "Golden Silk Dragon Panther, was that you calling me just now?" Yi Tian was surprised. "Yes, Master." The Golden Silk Dragon Panther nodded. Soon, Yi Tian understood what that strand of light was. It was the light of the soul. When a beast willingly submits, it offers its light of the soul for the human to control. If the human dies, the beast dies too. Conversely, if the beast dies, the human remains unaffected. To save its life, the Golden Silk Dragon Panther willingly accepted Yi Tian as its master. It didn't feel humiliated. After all, it didn't have human concerns about face. Living was what mattered most. Suddenly acquiring a beast pet left Yi Tian a bit dumbfounded, but it was undoubtedly a good thing for him at the moment. The Golden Silk Dragon Panther had top-tier bloodlines and talents, making it a high-quality beast. Moreover, it was the leader of a beast pack. Having such a pack in the Shaoqianyi forest would save him a lot of trouble. "Do you have a name?" Yi Tian asked. "Master, I don't have a name." The Golden Silk Dragon Panther shook its head. "From now on, I'll call you Xiao Jin," Yi Tian decided after some thought. Upon receiving a name, Xiao Jin seemed extremely happy, as if it had forgotten all about its injuries. Yi Tian looked at the injured Xiao Jin and quickly fed it some healing elixir. Under the dual effects of the elixir and its initial healing talent, Xiao Jin's injuries healed rapidly. An hour later, Xiao Jin had fully recovered. Returning to its pack, it ordered the Black Wolf Panthers not to attack Yi Tian. At this point, Yi Tian truly had a pack of beasts under his command. By the way, Xiao Jin, do you know where we can find treasures? Yi Tian asked with some anticipation. The Shaoqianyi forest was vast and contained countless resources, some of which were extremely useful for martial warriors, such as medicinal herbs and items that could enhance talents. Usually, when he went hunting, Yi Tian would occasionally collect some herbs and sell them on the black market. But searching for treasures by himself was too inefficient, so he hadn't found many valuable items. Xiao Jin had lived in the Shaoqianyi forest and led a pack, so it undoubtedly knew a lot. Master, I do know of a treasure. The reason I'm different from the others in my pack is that I consumed the treasure, Xiao Jin honestly said. Yi Tian was thrilled. From Xiao Jin's words, he guessed that the treasure must be something that could enhance talents. The value of such a treasure would be incredibly high. Xiao Jin, take me there. Yi Tian commanded. Without any hesitation, Xiao Jin immediately led Yi Tian to the location. This was the benefit of having a tamed beast. If Xiao Jin hadn't submitted, it would probably not be so loyal and might even betray him. But once a beast submits, it becomes loyal and considers its master's interests. Xiao Jin didn't bring its pack along. According to Xiao Jin, only it knew about this place, even its pack was unaware. It didn't want to create another golden silk dragon panther like itself, as that would mean competition for the leadership position. In a short while, Yi Tian followed Xiao Jin to a cave. After navigating through winding passages, they finally reached their destination. What appeared before Yi Tian was a small golden tree with a single fruit on it. The fruit was mostly golden but had a hint of green. Master, there were originally 2 fruits on this tree. I ate one, and this is the only one left. This fruit is not yet ripe. You can't eat it now, Xiao Jin warned. Yi Tian nodded lightly, but his eyes never left the fruit. A voice in his heart told him he must consume that fruit. Could this fruit enhance my talents? Yi Tian wondered. He felt that his talents could be improved by continuously copying others' talents, so there was no need to rely on a treasure. That would be somewhat wasteful. But sensing the desire in his heart, he became indecisive. I'll eat it, Yi Tian finally decided. Even if it was wasteful, he wouldn't regret it. As his power continued to grow, wouldn't he be able to obtain even better treasures? Xiao Jin, how long do you think it will take for this fruit to ripen? Yi Tian asked Xiao Jin, the expert on the matter. Master, it will take about 20 days and nights. Xiao Jin calculated by scratching its claws back and forth. 20 days, huh, let's wait here then. It's a good opportunity to focus on cultivation, Yi Tian muttered to himself. Over the next 20 days, Yi Tian diligently cultivated. With a large supply of beast blood, he didn't have to worry about the pace of his cultivation. Meanwhile, Xiao Jin, under Yi Tian's arrangement, continued to hunt beasts to provide him with more beast blood. In this way, Yi Tian's cultivation progressed rapidly. I've reached a strength of 45,000 jin. Yi Tian sensed his power and exclaimed excitedly. Such rapid advancement in cultivation was mainly due to his consumption of countless amounts of beast blood. He had no idea how much he had used, but even a large clan wouldn't be able to afford such expenditure. He glanced at the fruit on the golden tree. The last hint of green was about to turn gold. It was almost ripe. At this moment, the desire in Yi Tian's heart grew stronger and stronger. Boom! A surge of energy flooded into the golden fruit on the golden tree, aiding it in its final transformation. Under the watchful eyes of Yi Tian and Xiao Jin, the golden fruit finally ripened. Chapter 46. Talent Duplication Transforms. Chapter 46. Talent Duplication Transforms. Yi Tian stepped forward and plucked the golden fruit. It wasn't large, just enough for one bite. After a moment of hesitation, he decisively swallowed the golden fruit in one gulp. The golden fruit transformed into a torrent of energy that flowed into his body. A massive surge of power erupted and flooded into Yi Tian's mind, causing him to lose consciousness. What Yi Tian didn't know was that, during his unconscious state, various points of light appeared deep within his mind. These points of light came in various colors, but at the center was a golden point. This golden point represented his most important talent, the ability to duplicate talents. The golden fruit's energy flowed into this deep part of his mind, and the golden point rapidly absorbed it. The golden point visibly grew larger, brighter, and its fluctuations became stronger. It was evolving, or perhaps transforming. I actually passed out. Yi Tian was somewhat surprised and also a bit scared. Fortunately, he was in a safe place. Had he been in a dangerous area while absorbing the golden fruit, he might have encountered danger while unconscious. Standing up, he saw Xiao Jin lying nearby, keeping watch. Xiao Jin, did you pass out when you ate the fruit? Yi Tian asked. I did, Xiao Jin answered truthfully. Why didn't you warn me? Yi Tian rolled his eyes in blame. Master, you didn't ask. Xiao Jin felt somewhat wronged. Yi Tian chuckled. He really couldn't blame Xiao Jin. Although it was intelligent, it wasn't a human after all. Check talents. With a thought, Yi Tian's talent status appeared before his eyes. Human. Yi Tian. Cultivation talent. High level. Speed talent. Top level. Blade talent. Mid level. Shadow talent. Basic level. Healing talent. Top level. Strength talent. High level. Huh, my talents didn't change. Yi Tian was both surprised and disappointed. He had thought that his talents would undergo a transformation. After all, that golden fruit looked extraordinary. Even Xiao Jin had elevated its talents to a top-level bloodline. Logically, his high-level cultivation talent should easily upgrade to a top-level cultivation talent. Could it have enhanced other talents? Yi Tian wondered. But upon closer inspection, his other talents remained the same, unchanged. Subsequently, Yi Tian carefully examined his body and found a few differences. First, his mental state had improved significantly, and he even developed psychic power. His psychic power could cover a 10-meter radius. Although it wasn't as extensive as the 20-meter range of a great martial warrior, it was still a breakthrough. He had never heard of anyone possessing psychic power at the elite martial warrior level, and this was something to be proud of. However, when he asked Xiao Jin and found out that its psychic power could now cover a radius of 30 meters, he felt utterly defeated. Of course, Yi Tian understood that this was because Xiao Jin had a higher level of cultivation. Once he reached the peak of the elite martial warrior realm, his psychic power would naturally grow as well. Apart from this, Yi Tian noticed another change in himself. The range of his talent duplication ability had expanded, allowing him to scan talents within a 50-meter radius. This meant he could more easily check the talents of others or beasts. But still, it's a bit frustrating. Xiao Jin became a lot stronger after eating the golden fruit, while all I got was some psychic power and a slightly extended range for my talent duplication ability. My gains are nothing compared to Xiao Jin's. Yi Tian expressed his extreme disappointment. However, there was some change, and since the treasure came for free, he didn't lose anything. Only 10 more days until I can duplicate talents again. I'll stay here for 10 more days before going back, Yi Tian decided. During these 10 days, Yi Tian and Xiao Jin went out to hunt high-level beasts. According to Xiao Jin, each area in the Shaoqianyi forest had a ruler beast, so finding high-level beasts wouldn't be difficult. Working together, Yi Tian and Xiao Jin easily killed high-level beasts. As they had agreed, Yi Tian took the blood of the high-level beasts, while Xiao Jin took their bodies. Soon, 10 days passed. 1,600 portions of high-level beast blood, enough for a long period of cultivation. Yi Tian looked at the small pool of blood in front of him, excited. But soon, he became troubled. He couldn't carry all this beast blood, his water bottle couldn't hold much. In the end, he could only take a small portion. If only I had a storage bag, it would be so much more convenient, Yi Tian sighed. Another day passed, and Yi Tian's talent duplication ability was finally ready to be used again. He planned to duplicate Xiao Jin's stamina talent. It wasn't that he didn't want to duplicate other talents, he just hadn't encountered any good ones. Just as Yi Tian was walking towards Xiao Jin, he froze. His retina displayed Xiao Jin's talent status. Besides the top-level speed talent, there was a duplicate button next to the other talents. He was familiar with this situation, it meant he could duplicate. The key issue was, he hadn't touched Xiao Jin yet. Could it be? Yi Tian suddenly started breathing rapidly. He finally understood why his talents didn't seem to transform after eating the golden fruit. It wasn't that they hadn't transformed, he just hadn't noticed. His talent duplication ability had evolved or transformed. Yes, the talent to duplicate is also a talent. Yi Tian realized. From what he could see, his talent duplication ability had evolved to the point where he could duplicate talents without physical contact. This was much more convenient than before. For example, when duplicating human talents, sometimes he would encounter an impressive talent but couldn't duplicate it because he couldn't touch the person. What a pity that used to be. Now, everything was much easier. Since I can duplicate from a distance, there's no rush to duplicate Xiao Jin's stamina talent, which isn't that useful anyway. If I can encounter someone with a high-level cultivation talent at Lin Hai base, like Lin Wanli from the Lin family who has a high-level cultivation talent, I can duplicate it without even touching him. Just being somewhat close would be enough, Yi Tian thought. So, Yi Tian prepared to abandon duplicating Xiao Jin's talent. Chapter 47, Changes in Lin Hai base. Xiao Jin, stay here. If you have time, help me collect more medicinal herbs and beast blood. Remember to separate the high-level beast blood from the mid-level beast blood and store them in the blood pool, Yi Tian instructed before leaving. Master, I understand, Xiao Jin responded. Yi Tian wanted to bring Xiao Jin back to Lin Hai base, but given its large size and the fact that it was a beast, it would attract too much attention. While Lin Hai base did have some domesticated beasts belonging to large families, bringing a special beast like a golden silk dragon leopard would cause him unnecessary trouble. Moreover, Xiao Jin's strength was not yet on par with his own, so it was better for it to stay in Shaoqianyi forest and collect beast blood for him. After packing up, Yi Tian took about 100 portions of high-level beast blood and a large bag of medicinal herbs. With all these items on his back, he left Shaoqianyi forest under Xiao Jin's escort. About 8 miles outside Lin Hai base, a hunting squad was cautiously searching for beasts. Each member looked quite serious. The squad wasn't particularly strong. The most powerful among them was only in the late stage of the martial warrior realm. Boss, I've spotted a young martial warrior. He's carrying a lot of stuff. One of the members pointed out, looking at a figure approaching them. The leader looked over and saw a young man, obviously a martial warrior. Should we rob him? Someone asked. The leader hesitated. He didn't think Yi Tian was particularly strong. A young man like him was probably just entering the martial warrior realm. Boss, are you worried he has a strong background? We basically know all the martial warriors from our Taa base, and he's not one of them. He must be from Lin Hai base. With our background, what's there to fear from a small martial warrior from Lin Hai base? Boss, let's do this. As long as we don't kill him, no one can do anything to us. Besides, we haven't gained anything today, we can't go back empty-handed. Persuaded by his subordinates, the leader finally gritted his teeth and said, fine, let's do it. They had done this kind of thing before, always carefully picking easy targets. Although this time was a bit risky, the rewards would be great if they succeeded. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The members of the hunting squad ran over and quickly surrounded the young man. Hand over all your stuff. The leader threatened. This young man was Yi Tian. At this moment, he was somewhat dumbfounded. How bold were these people to actually try to rob him? With his psychic power, Yi Tian immediately assessed the strength of these martial warriors. They were all at the martial warrior level, similar in strength to the Feng Lang hunting squad. To him, they were nothing but ants. Do you really want to rob me? Yi Tian said coldly. Stop talking nonsense. If you don't want to suffer, hand over all your stuff. The leader threatened again, his knife faintly glowing. It was a sign that he was channeling his elemental energy into his weapon. Clearly, the leader was about to make his move. Just then, Yi Tian's knife moved. These martial warriors couldn't see Yi Tian's actions clearly. They only felt a pain in both hands, and their weapons fell to the ground. Then, screams filled the air. Ah, my hand. My hand is almost broken. I don't want to be disabled. Yi Tian hadn't crippled their hands, he had merely severed their tendons and even shattered some of their wrist bones. In his previous life, such injuries would have been considered disabling. But in this world, as long as there were healing medicines, one could recover, it would just take time. Given the injuries of these martial warriors, they wouldn't be able to engage in combat for several months. The leader of the hunting squad, enduring the intense pain in his hands, looked at Yi Tian with fear. He finally realized that the young man before him was not an ordinary martial warrior but a much stronger one, so fast that he couldn't even see his movements. Such a martial warrior was terrifying. What's the current situation in Lin Hai base? Yi Tian asked. He had been away for over a month and wanted to quickly understand the situation in Lin Hai base, which these people should know. The hunting squad didn't dare not to answer and quickly told Yi Tian what he wanted to know. After listening, Yi Tian frowned. A lot had changed in Lin Hai base over the past month. And there was one crucial piece of information, Taa base was gone. Yes, gone, wiped out by beasts, with hundreds of thousands dead. Only about 100,000 had survived and come to Linhai base. Among these 100,000, nearly 10,000 were martial warriors. The rest were mostly families of martial warriors. The true civilians of Taea base had no chance to escape. Now, these 100,000 people from Taea base had settled in Linhai base and were even constructing new buildings outside the base, including an outer wall. Clearly, they were planning to make this their new home. Moreover, the Lin family of Linhai base had reached an agreement with the higher-ups of Taea base, allowing their people to join Linhai base, but the Lin family would retain control. The Lin family in control? Yi Tian chuckled upon hearing this. This was control in name only. The Lin family's strength was far inferior to that of Taea base. How could they control the Grand Martial warriors and even Grand Masters from Taea base? This agreement was merely a matter of saving face. In reality, the true power now undoubtedly lay with the higher-ups of Taea base. Of course, this didn't affect Yi Tian. He had no intention of getting involved in their competition. Perhaps before long, he would take his sister Yi Yu to a larger base and would not stay in this small Linhai base. Get lost, Yi Tian coldly ordered. The hunting squad scrambled away, quickly disappearing from sight, fearing that Yi Tian might change his mind. The rest of the journey was uneventful, and Yi Tian calmly returned to Linhai base. As soon as he entered Linhai base, he noticed the differences. There were more martial warriors and more ordinary people, the streets were bustling. When he got home, "Brother, you're finally back." Yi Yu saw Yi Tian and immediately rushed over, her little face full of longing. Chapter 48. Sword Skill Betting. Little sister, have you been slacking off lately? Yi Tian stroked Yi Yu's little head, asking with a doting tone. Yi Yu answered earnestly, I haven't been slacking off. I've been practicing hard and now have a strength of 300 jin. Having achieved a strength of 300 jin in just over a month was quite remarkable even among those with medium-level cultivation talents. Yi Tian knew that most of this was due to the beast blood. Without enough beast blood, Yi Yu couldn't have progressed so quickly. Have you run into any trouble lately? Yi Tian asked again. Yi Yu shook her head, no one has bothered me, but someone did come looking for you. Who? Yi Tian asked, frowning. I don't know them, but they were very arrogant. According to their own introduction, they seemed to be some genius from Taea base, named Sun Feng, Yi Yu recalled. Taea base, Sun Feng. Yi Tian mentally noted the name. Afterward, he placed the medicinal herbs and high-level beast blood he had brought back inside the house and then went out alone. Come out, Yi Tian spoke to a corner. Whoosh, a figure emerged from around the corner. It was a martial warrior from the Wind Wolf hunting squad. Greetings, Master Yi Tian. The martial warrior greeted respectfully. Take me to your captain. I have some questions for him. Yi Tian mainly wanted to know about Sun Feng from Taea base. He didn't know Sun Feng, but Sun Feng had come looking for him, and his attitude was quite arrogant. Soon, Yi Tian met Wind Wolf. Yi Tian, you're finally back. Wind Wolf sighed in relief upon seeing Yi Tian. He had been worried that something had happened to Yi Tian since he had been gone for so long. Wind Wolf, I heard that after I left, a guy named Sun Feng came looking for me. Yi Tian asked directly. Wind Wolf frowned and nodded, yes, Sun Feng was originally from Taea base and is considered a genius there. He's far superior to the talents in Linhai base. He has a high-level cultivation talent and has reached the mid-stage of elite martial warriors. After the people from Taea base integrated into Linhai base, Sun Feng started challenging the young generation here. He has easily defeated many talents with medium-level cultivation talents and even some older elite martial warriors. He heard about you from somewhere and came to challenge you, but you weren't home, so he left. I see. Yi Tian understood. He had initially thought it was some kind of grudge, but it turned out to be a simple challenge. Yi Tian, be careful. Sun Feng is known for being ruthless in his challenges. Those who have been challenged by him have been seriously injured and will need several months to recover. Moreover, he has the backing of a peak-level Grand Martial warrior. Even those stronger than Sun Feng dare not challenge him, otherwise, they would offend him, Wind Wolf warned. I'll be cautious, Yi Tian said nonchalantly. He understood Wind Wolf's concerns. People like Sun Feng were essentially martial second generations. Those who could beat Sun Feng didn't dare to, and those who couldn't had to endure his arrogance. Others might fear Sun Feng, but he didn't. Even if the peak-level Grand Martial warrior behind Sun Feng were to challenge him, they wouldn't be his match. After parting ways with Wind Wolf, Yi Tian returned home. Cultivate. With ample high-level beast blood, Yi Tian didn't have to worry about resources. He could feel his strength growing rapidly with each day of practice. The rapid increase in his strength had Yi Tian utterly captivated. For him, nothing was more interesting than enhancing his own abilities. However, someone decided to disturb him. Yi Tian, I know you're back. Come out and fight me now. An extremely arrogant voice echoed from outside the villa. Annoyed, Yi Tian stopped his cultivation and walked outside. Who are you? He asked, his tone far from friendly, as he looked at a young man not far away. I'm Sun Feng, one of the 4 geniuses from Tia base. You're Yi Tian, right? I heard you also have a high-level cultivation talent. Let's see who's stronger, Sun Feng said, full of arrogance. Yi Tian knew the nature of people like Sun Feng. If he refused the challenge, Sun Feng would not only not leave but would also become even more annoying, perhaps even resorting to excessive measures. So, he decided to accept the challenge and beat Sun Feng so badly that he wouldn't dare to provoke him again. A challenge is fine, but a simple one is boring. If there's a wager, I might be interested, Yi Tian said with a smile. A wager? Sun Feng showed some interest. What do you want to bet? A bronze-level knife technique. Dare to bet, Yi Tian suddenly proposed. Bronze-level knife technique. Sun Feng's eyes lit up. He was naturally interested in acquiring more knife techniques. Fine, I agree. I'll also wager a bronze-level knife technique. Sun Feng quickly agreed, afraid that Yi Tian might change his mind. What Sun Feng didn't know was that after he agreed, the corners of Yi Tian's mouth lifted in a sly smile. He had a reason for wagering a bronze-level knife technique. He had seen Sun Feng's talent profile. Human. Sun Feng. Cultivation talent. High level. Knife talent. Medium level. Sun Feng had a medium-level talent in knife techniques, which meant that a bronze-level knife technique would be very useful to him. And given Sun Feng's status, he should be able to offer a bronze-level knife technique as well. Since you've agreed to the bet, let's talk about our respective wagers, Sun Feng began, introducing his bronze-level knife technique first. My bronze-level knife technique is called Qing Feng Slash. It can amplify attack power. When mastered, it can amplify attack power by 6 times, and even at a proficient level, it can triple the attack power. What's your bronze-level knife technique? Yi Tian was inwardly excited. He had been searching for such a technique for a long time but had never found one. Acquiring this technique would significantly boost his combat abilities. My bronze-level knife technique is called Shadow Kill. It amplifies knife speed, up to 5 or 6 times. This technique focuses on delivering a fatal blow that's hard to defend against, Yi Tian explained. Amplifying knife speed, that's a fast knife technique, something I don't have. I've hit the jackpot. Sun Feng already considered Yi Tian's knife technique as his own. Extremely confident people never think they'll lose. When do we start? Yi Tian asked. My bronze-level knife technique manual isn't with me, and fights between elite martial warriors can be quite destructive. How about we have our duel at Weiming Square tomorrow morning at 10? Sun Feng suggested. Fine, Yi Tian agreed. Chapter 49. Talent Upgrade Top-Level Cultivation Talent. As Yi Tian watched Sun Feng walk away, he couldn't help but think of Sun Feng as a bringer of wealth. Not only had Sun Feng gifted him an attack-type bronze-level knife skill, but he had also provided him with a high-level cultivation talent. While conversing with Sun Feng, Yi Tian had secretly copied Sun Feng's high-level cultivation talent. Yi Tian had also been interested in copying the medium-level knife skill talent, but when choosing between the two, he naturally preferred the high-level cultivation talent. His high-level cultivation talent was already at its peak, very close to the top-level cultivation talent. If he copied the medium-level knife skill talent, there was no guarantee that it would evolve and upgrade. However, once he copied the high-level cultivation talent, it would definitely evolve to a top-level cultivation talent. Yi Tian knew where his priorities lay. Back in his room, Yi Tian began to integrate the newly copied high-level cultivation talent. The process was painless this time, easily completed with just a bit of sweat. Human. Yi Tian. Cultivation talent. Top level. Speed talent. Top level. Knife talent. Medium level. Shadow talent. Basic level. Healing talent. Top level. Strength talent. High level. Seeing his cultivation talent upgraded to top level, Yi Tian couldn't contain his excitement. This was a top-level cultivation talent. With continuous cultivation, he was 100% certain he could reach the Grandmaster realm. High-level cultivation talent only offered a slim chance of advancing to Grandmaster, and even if one did, further progress would be difficult. However, with top-level cultivation talent, reaching the early, middle, or even late stages of the Grandmaster realm would be easy. Only when attempting to break through to the next realm would he encounter a bottleneck, but even then, there was a small chance of breaking through to higher levels. With this top-level cultivation talent, I don't have to worry about my aptitude before reaching the Grandmaster realm. Yi Tian thought. After testing the effects of the top-level cultivation talent, Yi Tian found it to be twice as effective as the high-level one. Combined with intermediate elemental body training and high-level beast blood, the overall effect could be tripled. The higher the talent, the more effective the use of beast blood. According to the effects of the top-level cultivation talent, Yi Tian was confident that he could reach the limit of elite martial warriors, which was a body strength of 100,000 jin, within 2 months. The next day, before 10 a.m., Yi Tian arrived at Weiming Square. Weiming Square was a shopping plaza at Linhai Base, quite large in size and also hosting an entrance to the black market. When Yi Tian arrived, he saw many people, most of whom were martial warriors. Yi Tian, you're finally here. Sun Feng walked up to Yi Tian, smiling. Why are there so many people? Yi Tian looked around curiously. Normally, there shouldn't be this many people here, and the gathering of so many martial warriors must be related to Sun Feng. It's nothing. I just promoted our duel a bit, Sun Feng said casually. What he wanted was fame. Otherwise, he wouldn't go around challenging people, as it fed his vanity. Although it was somewhat unfair to the martial warriors of Linhai Base, he didn't care. In his eyes, the talents of Linhai Base were just namesake, not even meeting the threshold of talent at the Tia Base. Defeating the talents of Linhai Base and demoralizing its martial warriors would be beneficial for the people of the Tia Base in controlling Linhai Base. He had already swept through most of the other talents at Linhai Base, only Yi Tian remained. Therefore, this battle had to be grand. Bring out the stakes. Sun Feng hastily spoke before the duel began, fearing that Yi Tian might not have a bronze-level knife skill. Here it is. Yi Tian took out the secret manual for the bronze-level knife skill, Shadow Kill. Sun Feng also produced the secret manual for his bronze-level knife skill, Qing Feng Slash. Both men briefly examined each other's manuals. A quick glance wouldn't allow one to steal the knife skill, as the techniques were complex and accompanied by many illustrations. Each illustration contained the essence of the bronze-level knife skill, and one couldn't simply memorize it, constant comprehension of the manual was required. This is why creating each knife skill manual was difficult and why such skills were not widespread. The manuals are genuine. Let's begin. Yi Tian and Sun Feng stood in the center of Weiming Square, and the crowd dispersed. At this moment, many martial warriors began to discuss among themselves. Who is Yi Tian? Is he also an elite martial warrior? I heard that Yi Tian has a high-level cultivation talent and is already an elite martial warrior. He's just been very low-key, so we didn't know. Both Yi Tian and Sun Feng have high-level cultivation talents, but Sun Feng is obviously much older and should be stronger. This duel should be a foregone conclusion, right? I also think Sun Feng will win. After all, he has a knife skill talent and has cultivated his bronze-level knife skill, Qing Feng Slash, to a high level. He can unleash triple the attack power. Do you know what triple attack power means? A strength of 50,000 jin can burst out with an attack power of 150,000 jin. None of the elite martial warriors at our Linhai Base can match Sun Feng, and the grand martial warriors are too embarrassed to make a move. I guess no one can defeat Sun Feng. Yeah, Yi Tian's chances of winning are too low. Almost everyone was not optimistic about Yi Tian, except for a few who held some hope. These people were members of the Wind Wolf hunting squad. Captain, do you think Mr. Yi Tian has a chance of winning? A member of the Wind Wolf hunting squad whispered. He might, but even if he wins, it will be a hard-fought victory. Sun Feng has an attack power comparable to a grand martial warrior. Although Yi Tian has speed talent and strong knife skills, the advantage is not significant. It will be a narrow win, the captain of the Wind Wolf hunting squad estimated. He made this estimate based on his understanding of Yi Tian, but he had no idea that Yi Tian's true strength had already exceeded the limits of a grand martial warrior. Soon, the duel began. Whoosh! Sun Feng turned into an afterimage and charged at Yi Tian, raising his knife for a fierce slash. A wind blade aimed at Yi Tian, its attack power reaching 300,000 jin with the aid of elemental force. Although the blade wasn't fast, it was almost impossible for martial warriors below the Grand Martial Warrior realm to dodge it. However, something incredible happened. Yi Tian's figure disappeared. The sure-hit wind blade struck the ground, creating a huge crack more than 10 meters long, and shattered a large number of green stone slabs. Not good. Sun Feng realized something was wrong. But when he prepared to dodge, a knife was already at his throat. When did this happen? Sun Feng broke into a cold sweat. He hadn't noticed Yi Tian's movements at all and had no idea when Yi Tian had gotten so close to him. It was terrifying. Sun Feng clearly understood what had just happened. If Yi Tian had wanted to, he could have killed him with a single stroke. He must have a very high-speed talent. Sun Feng realized. P.S. If you enjoy this story, please leave a rating or comment. Chapter 50. The Furious Sun Feng. Do you concede? Yi Tian held his knife to Sun Feng's throat and asked. I concede. Sun Feng said reluctantly. He was just an elite martial warrior. Although his attack power had reached the level of a grand martial warrior with the aid of his knife skill, his defense was still at the level of an elite martial warrior. His elemental body shield would not be able to withstand Yi Tian's strike. Moreover, the neck is one of the weakest parts of the human body, naturally unable to resist a weapon imbued with elemental force. Hand over the bronze-level knife skill, Qingfeng/manual. Yi Tian demanded. Sun Feng's face turned ashen as he glared at Yi Tian. You really want to take my bronze-level knife skill? You'll regret it. A bronze-level knife skill was not cheap. Martial warriors without knife skill talent might not care, but those with knife skill talent would value it highly, even willing to spend tens of millions to purchase it. Sun Feng didn't care about losing a bronze-level knife skill to Yi Tian, it was equivalent to losing some money. However, the real loss was not about money but face. He had been thoroughly humiliated this time, losing not just his own face but also that of the Tia base. A genius from a medium-sized base had come to a small base and been defeated by a genius of that small base. If word got out, where would his prestige be? Even his family would lose face in front of other families. Therefore, he despised Yi Tian. Hand it over. Yi Tian's voice turned cold. Here, Sun Feng threw the Qingfeng/manual at Yi Tian, then glared at him with murderous eyes, as if to say, just you wait. Yi Tian got the Qingfeng/manual and was in high spirits. As for Sun Feng's threat, he didn't take it seriously. If Sun Feng dared to cause trouble, he would be the one to regret it. The duel ended, and the other martial warriors dispersed, spreading the news of the event. One could imagine that the entire Linhai base would be discussing the duel between Yi Tian and Sun Feng the next day, and Yi Tian's fame would surely resound throughout Linhai base. One battle made him famous, and that was Yi Tian. Yi Tian, Wind Wolf and his team approached. Wind Wolf, you guys came too. Yi Tian greeted with a smile. Yi Tian, be careful. Sun Feng is not someone easy to deal with. You've made him lose a lot of face, he might seek revenge, Wind Wolf warned. Don't worry, I have plans, Yi Tian nodded. Wind Wolf didn't say much more, a warning was enough. After all, he couldn't help much. After parting ways with Wind Wolf and his team, Yi Tian went home and began studying Qingfeng/. It was a bronze-level knife skill and very difficult to comprehend. With his medium-level knife skill talent, Yi Tian could at most cultivate Qingfeng/ to the same level as Sun Feng. To cultivate Qingfeng/ to the perfect realm would be too difficult unless he had a great opportunity to comprehend the essence of the knife or improve his knife skill talent. Next, Yi Tian had one more primary cultivation task, Qingfeng/. While Yi Tian was diligently cultivating, news of his achievements spread throughout Linhai base. Defeating Sun Feng in seconds. Such an achievement was probably difficult even for a grand martial warrior, but Yi Tian had done it. Lin Manor. Upon hearing the news from his clan members, Lin Wanli's first reaction was disbelief. Yi Tian's speed is so fast, it seems I've underestimated his speed talent. Perhaps Yi Tian has medium-level or even high-level speed talent, Lin Wanli speculated. With such talent, Yi Tian's strength had already surpassed that of elite martial warriors and was not inferior even when compared to grand martial warriors. Unfortunately, the Sun family is not a family to be trifled with easily. It remains to be seen whether Yi Tian can withstand the Sun family's retaliation, Lin Wanli sighed. Yi Tian was a genius of Linhai base, and logically, Lin Wanli should support him against the Sun family. However, he dared not do so. The Sun family's strength far surpassed that of his Lin family. Although the Sun family had no Grand Masters, they had 2 peak Grand Martial Warriors and 8 Grand Martial Warriors. Moreover, those 2 peak Grand Martial Warriors were far stronger than he was. He had once sparred with a peak Grand Martial Warrior from the Sun family and was defeated in a single move. Many martial warriors in the Sun family had knife skill talent. It was said that this was because the Sun family rarely married outsiders, they mostly married within their own branches to ensure the purity of their bloodline, which also increased the chances of giving birth to clan members with knife skill talent. Rumor had it that because of inbreeding, many members of the Sun family were born mentally challenged or disabled and were secretly executed. Such a ruthless family like the Sun family would definitely not let Etn off easily. In the Taa base, the Sun family was also one of the top 5 major families. With the Sun family's strength, how could the Lin family dare to oppose them? One could even say that a single peak Grand Martial warrior from the Sun family could sweep the entire Lin family. On the other side, the Sun family. At that moment, Sun Feng was venting his anger in his residence, smashing many pieces of furniture. Even some servants were severely beaten by him to vent his frustration. Fenger, a middle-aged man walked in, glanced at the broken furniture scattered on the floor, and frowned. "Are you still angry about losing the duel?" The middle-aged man was Sun Feng's father, Sun Qinghe, also a Grand Martial warrior but only in the early stages. However, he also had knife skill talent, making his strength comparable to late-stage Grand Martial warriors. "Father." Sun Feng calmed down a bit, walked up to Sun Qinghe, and called out. "It's just one loss, there's no need to be so disheartened," Sun Qinghe said. "Father, I want Etn dead. Can you help me?" Sun Feng requested. He was self-aware, knowing that he couldn't kill Etn with his own strength and couldn't mobilize the Sun family's Grand Martial warriors. His only option was to seek help from his father. "No," Sun Qinghe flatly refused. "Why?" Sun Feng was puzzled. "Because it's a critical time now," Sun Qinghe explained. "Although we've become part of Linhai base, many people here still consider us outsiders. Our foundation here is not yet stable. If we kill Linhai base's top genius at this time, even if the Lin family doesn't trouble us, what will the other martial warriors of Linhai base think? They might cause us problems in various ways, severely affecting the family's development. So, we're just going to let Etn go." Sun Feng was very unwilling. "No, Etn has made our Sun family lose a lot of face. We can't let him go. But we can't act against him at this time. In a few months, when our family has completely stabilized its foundation in Linhai base, we can then take action to eliminate Etn," Sun Qinghe assured. "Fine, let Etn live a few more months," Sun Feng's face darkened. A few months was not a long time, and basically, nothing would change. Neither Sun Feng nor Sun Qinghe believed that Etn could grow to the level of a peak Grand Martial warrior in just a few months. And so, time slowly passed, and the entire Linhai base remained very peaceful. "The Sun family hasn't troubled me." Etn, who had been cultivating for about 10 days, found it strange. 51 Chapter 51, A Fraction of Sword Intent. Chapter 51, A Fraction of Sword Intent. The Sun family didn't come looking for trouble, but Etn remained vigilant. During this time, he inquired about the Sun family and had to admit their strength. To Etn, the Sun family was like a bag of express. Yes, a bag of express. This was because many warriors of the Sun family surprisingly possessed innate talent in swordsmanship, which was incredibly unbelievable. Etn had long known that his parents had the same special talent, and there was a certain chance for offspring to inherit such special talents. However, he never imagined the Sun family would go to the extent of internal marriages due to their obsession. "My cultivation talent has already reached a top level. Copying more high-level cultivation talents isn't very useful. Perhaps I should copy the Sun family's swordsmanship talent next. Maybe it can transform my sword talent, upgrading it to a high-level swordsmanship talent." Etn decided. 20 days later, Etn found an opportunity and secretly copied the intermediate swordsmanship talent of Sun Feng, who was wandering around. Unfortunately, this copy and fusion did not transform Etn's swordsmanship talent. Another month passed, and Etn discovered another young member of the Sun family with intermediate swordsmanship talent. The youth was not yet 15 years old and hadn't started cultivating, but his swordsmanship talent was copyable. After successfully copying the youth's intermediate swordsmanship talent, Etn fused it and upgraded his own swordsmanship talent. Swordsmanship talent, high level. Looking at the high-level swordsmanship talent, Etn was extremely excited. This was a high-level swordsmanship talent, which could definitely allow him to perfect a bronze-level sword technique. Once a bronze-level sword technique reached perfection, his combat ability would undergo a transformation like heaven and earth. But to comprehend a bronze-level sword technique to perfection, one must reach the sword intent realm. Previously hindered by his swordsmanship talent, he had always been stuck at the realm of perfect sword momentum, unable to comprehend even a hint of sword intent. But now, with his swordsmanship talent upgraded, sword intent could definitely be comprehended. Comprehend. Yi Tian, holding a sword, sat cross-legged, using the sword to comprehend the elusive sword intent. Buzz, buzz, buzz. In the world of his thoughts, the sword in his hand seemed to come alive, pulling him into a wonderful world. This was the world of the sword. Time slowly passed. After an unknown duration, Yi Tian suddenly had a revelation, and his understanding of the sword realm instantly improved. Suddenly, a strand of sword intent appeared, manifesting on Yi Tian's body. Sword intent, the will of the sword, is the culmination of refining sword momentum to its peak, forming sword intent under the perception of the sword realm. At this moment, Yi Tian finally entered the threshold, comprehending a strand of sword intent. Although still weak, he had indeed stepped into the realm of sword intent. For the following days, Yi Tian focused on comprehending sword intent, setting aside other cultivation practices. In terms of cultivation, he had already reached the pinnacle of an elite martial warrior, with a physical strength of 100,000 catties. The next breakthrough would be to the realm of a great martial warrior. He didn't want to enter the realm of a great martial warrior yet, as his progress was too rapid. Although his physical strength had reached the limit of an elite martial warrior, his body's tempering was not yet truly complete. Yi Tian planned to temper his skin, flesh, bones, and blood once more, making his foundation more solid. He firmly believed this was beneficial, otherwise, blindly pursuing strength would ultimately lead to a shaky foundation. 5 days passed. Yi Tian concluded his cultivation of comprehending sword intent. A fraction of sword intent, not bad at all. Yi Tian exhaled and said. There were detailed divisions within the realm of sword intent, starting from a fraction of sword intent, progressing to 1/10, then to 3/10 for minor completion, 7/10 for major completion, and finally, a full 10/10 for perfection. freewebnovel.com. However, comprehending sword intent was extremely difficult. Even with his high-level swordsmanship talent, it was unrealistic to expect a rapid advancement in the realm of sword intent. Yi Tian clearly felt that after reaching a fraction of sword intent, the speed of comprehension slowed down significantly. For him at the moment, fully focusing on comprehending sword intent was not very cost-effective. A fraction of sword intent was sufficient for the time being. Let's cultivate the bronze-level shadow kill and the bronze-level qingfeng/sword techniques. Yi Tian decided. He had already cultivated these 2 bronze-level sword techniques to the peak of great completion, just a step away from reaching perfection. Now that he had achieved sword intent, nothing could stop him from reaching perfection. In just 1 day, Shadow Kill successfully advanced to the perfection realm. Then, after half a day, Qingfeng/ also stepped into the perfection realm. Thus, Yi Tian mastered 2 bronze-level sword techniques at the perfection realm. That day, Yi Tian began to evaluate his combat strength. My physical strength has already reached 100,000 catties. With the high-level strength amplification, I can reach 1 million catties, equivalent to the ultimate strength of a great martial warrior. If I add the 6-fold attack power amplification of Qingfeng/, that's equivalent to 6 million catties. This is comparable to the attack power of a grandmaster, and even a normal grandmaster's attack power is not as good as mine. Additionally, my speed has reached 12 times the speed of sound, surpassing the limit of a great martial warrior, probably equivalent to a grandmaster's speed. Yi Tian estimated that, except for a somewhat weaker defense, he was essentially equivalent to a grandmaster. However, although his defense was weak, he possessed a top-tier healing talent, so even if he got injured due to his weak defense, he could recover quickly. Even if I fight a real grandmaster, I won't be any weaker. Yi Tian was extremely confident. Of course, Yi Tian had not yet encountered a suitable defensive talent. If he did, he would make up for this deficiency. According to calculations, in another month, I will be able to temper my entire body to the extreme, and then I can confidently advance to the great martial warrior level. Yi Tian looked forward with anticipation to how much his combat power would soar when he became a great martial warrior. Probably even many grandmasters would struggle to withstand his strike. The Sun family. Over these months, the Sun family's business gradually expanded. They not only purchased many shops but also completely opened a resource supply line, establishing a foothold in Linhai base. At this time, Sun Feng eagerly approached his father, Sun Qinghe. Father, isn't it time to make a move against Yi Tian? Sun Feng asked urgently. 3 days later, I will personally slay Yi Tian. Sun Qinghe promised. Thank you, father. Sun Feng was overjoyed, already imagining Yi Tian's downfall, and couldn't help but burst into laughter. Chapter 52. the good men of the Sun family. Sun Feng was very clear about his father's strength. Although he was only in the early stages of being a grand martial warrior, with a physical strength of 150,000 jin, his father also had medium-level knife skill talent. He had cultivated 2 bronze-level knife techniques to the peak of mastery, and he also possessed a mid-level elemental knife. With the combination of knife techniques and weapon, his strength could be amplified fourfold. Therefore, his father was equivalent to a grand martial warrior with a strength of 600,000 jin, and under the amplification of elemental power, he could deliver an attack with a force of 1,200,000 jin. In comparison, Sun Feng could only deliver an attack with a force of 300,000 jin, far inferior to his father. However, the biggest difference between elite martial warriors and grand martial warriors was not strength, but speed and defense. Grand martial warriors were much faster and had much stronger defenses than elite martial warriors, making the gap in power quite large. If his father wanted to kill him, one move would be enough to finish him off instantly. HMPH, what use is Yi Tian's speed? He lacks strength. His speed may exceed the limits of my vision, but in the eyes of a grand martial warrior, it's just a bit faster. With my father's strength, one move would be enough to kill him instantly. Sun Feng thought, completely unworried. He just needed to quietly wait for the news of Yi Tian's death. 3 days passed. On this day, in the morning, Sun Qinghe left the Sun family residence and headed directly to Yi Tian's home. He made no effort to conceal his actions. He knew very well that he couldn't hide the fact that he was going to kill Yi Tian. Instead of doing so, it would be better to openly kill Yi Tian to deter all sides and declare the might of the Sun family. Central Garden District. Boom. A grand martial warrior's aura spread out, causing many residents of the Central Garden District to become alarmed. This aura was extremely arrogant, completely disregarding the rules of Linhai Base. Grand martial warrior. Yi Tian opened his eyes and looked in the direction of the aura. He had a feeling that this grand martial warrior had come for him, and this aura also contained a strong knife intent, obviously belonging to a grand martial warrior with knife skill talent. The Sun family, huh? Yi Tian muttered. He had thought that the Sun family had given up on dealing with him, but it turned out to be a delayed retaliation. Sun family, it looks like you're asking for death. Yi Tian's eyes flashed with anger and killing intent. At this time, Yi Yu had already gone to school, and he was the only one at home. He wasn't worried about involving Yi Yu. The grand martial warrior moved quickly. One moment he was outside the Central Garden District, and the next he was at Yi Tian's villa. Using his spiritual sense, Sun Qinghe located Yi Tian, who naturally also saw Sun Qinghe. Sun Feng's father, Sun Qinghe. Yi Tian was not surprised. After all, with the strength he had displayed, an elite martial warrior couldn't deal with him. Naturally, a grand martial warrior had to be sent. As Yi Tian looked at Sun Qinghe, he also activated his copy talent, instantly checking Sun Qinghe's talents. Human. Sun Qinghe. Cultivation talent. Medium. Knife skill talent. Medium. From the talent situation, Sun Qinghe's talents were quite average. With only medium-level cultivation talent, reaching the level of a grand martial warrior was already his limit. However, he had medium-level knife skill talent and had definitely cultivated techniques like Qing Feng Zan, a bronze-level knife technique. His combat power was certainly comparable to a late-stage grand martial warrior. Your strength is not bad, but unfortunately, you have to die, Yi Tian thought to himself. Yi Tian, die. Sun Qinghe was very straightforward. He aimed at the villa and slashed down fiercely. A green blade light tore through the air, shattered the outer wall of the villa, and slashed towards Yi Tian. How dare you destroy my villa? Yi Tian was furious. With a single slash, he shattered Sun Qinghe's blade light. In a flash, he appeared outside the villa, moving so quickly that Sun Qinghe couldn't even react. Sun Qinghe's speed was at most 1 or 2 times the speed of sound, which was far inferior to Yi Tian's 12 times the speed of sound. There was no way he could keep up with Yi Tian's movements. Not good. Sun Qinghe's face changed. He realized he had underestimated Yi Tian. The speed was beyond his imagination, even the peak grand martial warriors in his clan didn't move that fast. freewebnovel.com. Blade curtain. Sun Qinghe twisted his blade, and layers of blade energy formed a curtain around him, sealing him in a protective shield. This was also a bronze-level knife technique, a defensive one, which effectively added another layer of defense. It was a rare technique he had acquired by chance, capable of defending against attacks from mid to late-stage grand martial warriors. Break. Yi Tian slashed down, secretly activating his high-level strength talent. A blade strike comparable to a Grandmaster's full-force attack instantly shattered Sun Qinghei's blade curtain. But the next moment, Yi Tian's blade shattered. It wasn't that Sun Qinghei's blade curtain was too strong, it was that Yi Tian's blade was too poor in quality. This blade was just an ordinary elemental weapon, a low-level elemental blade, and even among low-level elemental blades, it was mediocre. It couldn't withstand the force of a Grandmaster-level attack and thus shattered. Although the blade shattered, the attack's power didn't diminish much. The shattered blade pieces continued their trajectory due to inertia and pierced through Sun Qinghei's body, leaving numerous cuts all over him. Grandmaster. Sun Qinghei stared at Yi Tian in disbelief, uttering the word, Grandmaster, with his last breath, filled with regret. If he had known that Yi Tian possessed Grandmaster-level attack power, he would never have sought revenge, even if it meant sacrificing his son. But now, it was too late. Having offended Yi Tian, the Sun family was doomed, and he was the sinner of the Sun family. His consciousness gradually faded, and his body fell to the ground, lifeless. The blade's quality is too poor. Yi Tian looked at his shattered blade, somewhat helpless. Then, his gaze fell on Sun Qinghei's blade. This blade had not been damaged at all in the previous clash, not even a nick. Picking up Sun Qinghei's blade, Yi Tian flicked it lightly, and the metallic sound resonated in the air, very pleasing to the ears. Good blade, this should be a mid-level elemental blade, right? Yi Tian guessed. Then, he searched Sun Qinghei's body and found a secret manual, Blade Curtain. This manual was lucky, it hadn't been shattered by the blade fragments and was perfectly preserved. Yi Tian knew this was the defensive bronze-level knife technique that Sun Qinghei had just used, and it was extremely valuable. Looking at Sun Qinghei's corpse, he couldn't help but sigh, the sun is a wealth bringer, gifting me a bronze-level knife technique manual and high-level cultivation talent, who would have thought the father would be the same? Did they know I lacked a good weapon, so they hurriedly came to deliver one? He even brought a defensive knife technique, which is a rare technique that I lack. To thank the Sun family father and son for their contributions, Yi Tian gave them 2 words, good people. Chapter 53, Descending upon the Sun family. Chapter 53, Descending upon the Sun family. Sun Qinghei was dead, but the matter was far from over. The Sun family actually dared to attack me in broad daylight. It seems the Lin family's influence has almost completely vanished. Yi Tian suddenly sighed. The Lin family had once set rules that martial warriors in Linhai base were not allowed to fight or kill anyone indiscriminately. But now, the Sun family had completely ignored the Lin family's rules. Fair enough. The Sun family is much stronger than the Lin family and has now established itself in Linhai base. They naturally wouldn't take the Lin family seriously. Since the Sun family doesn't play by the rules, neither will I. Yi Tian gripped his mid-level elemental blade, his body emanating killing intent. With his current strength, what was the Sun family to him? Even if the 2 Grandmasters from the Taa base took action, he wouldn't care. As far as he knew, those 2 Grandmasters were not very strong, only in the early stages of the Grandmaster level. Whether they had special talents was unknown, but martial warriors with special talents were rare. If those 2 Grandmasters didn't have special talents, they probably couldn't even withstand a single slash from him. He was virtually invincible in Linhai base. What did he have to fear? Let's make a big scene then, Yi Tian muttered, looking into the distance. 10 minutes later, Sun family residence, front gate. Yi Tian arrived here alone, his killing intent making the Sun family's guards break out in cold sweat. Stop, this is the Sun family. Leave immediately. A guard managed to suppress his fear and shouted. The Sun family will cease to exist today. Yi Tian's voice was filled with murderous intent, making the guards sense impending doom. Quick, call for backup. A guard yelled, but it was too late. A flash of blade light filled their world. When the blade light dissipated, several guards had fallen, and the Sun family's main gate had turned to dust. The Sun family's residential area was not large, and the situation was immediately exposed. The Sun family's guards rushed over. These guards were cultivated by the Sun family from a young age, each possessing the strength of a martial warrior. The guard captains were elite martial warriors, and the entire guard force numbered around 100, forming a vital power for the Sun family. Boom! 100 guards holding elemental blades formed a battle formation, their momentum even capable of slightly contending with a grand martial warrior. However, a green blade light broke through, tearing the entire battle formation apart and nearly slicing the entire Sun family residential area in half. Buildings shattered, and even the ground cracked open. This was a Grandmaster level strike. Most of the Sun family's guards were killed or injured by Yi Tian's single strike, and the remaining guards lost their will to fight, retreating in fear. At this moment, the Sun family's higher-ups also appeared, their faces changing dramatically as they looked at Yi Tian. Grandmaster-level attack. Sun Kong, the great elder of the Sun family and a peak Grand Martial warrior, said anxiously. An attack that could cause such massive destruction was undoubtedly a Grandmaster-level attack, and Yi Tian was clearly not a Grandmaster. But even if he wasn't a Grandmaster, Yi Tian had achieved Grandmaster-level attack power. The Sun family also had Grandmaster-level attack power. Sun Kong himself had it because he possessed a medium-level blade talent and had cultivated several bronze-level blade techniques to the peak, amplifying his attack power several times. In terms of attack power, his was even stronger than a newly promoted Grandmaster, but his actual strength was far inferior to a Grandmaster's. That was because he couldn't hit a Grandmaster. Grandmasters were much faster than him. There was a vast chasm between Grand Martial warriors and Grandmasters. Once one crossed that threshold, everything from defense to speed would undergo a drastic transformation. Facing a Grandmaster, Sun Kong could only withstand a few moves at best. However, Sun Kong felt relieved that the person before him was not a Grandmaster. Having Grandmaster-level attack power at such a young age, this person is undoubtedly a true genius, Sun Kong thought. At that moment, Sun Feng shouted, "It's Yi Tian." The whole scene was shocked. The name Yi Tian was not unfamiliar to the Sun family. It was Yi Tian who had embarrassed them. Had it not been for the Sun family's need to consolidate their foundation in Linhai Base, they would have dealt with Yi Tian long ago. But to their surprise, Yi Tian's strength had reached such an extent. "Yi Tian, the weapon in your hand belonged to my father." "Where is my father?" Sun Feng stared at the mid-level elemental blade in Yi Tian's hand and asked anxiously. "Sun Qinghe. Naturally, he's dead," Yi Tian said with a faint smile. "Young man, did you come here today to annihilate the Sun family?" Sun Kong stepped forward, facing Yi Tian directly. "What do you think? From the moment your Sun family sent someone to kill me, it was destined that we would be at odds until one of us died," Yi Tian coldly replied. "Ah, if we had known you were this strong, we wouldn't have acted against you. How about we let bygones be bygones?" Sun Kong tried to negotiate. "Great Elder, he killed my father. Kill him now," Sun Feng screamed hysterically. "Shut up," Sun Kong yelled at Sun Feng. "If it weren't for the trouble you caused, would the Sun family be in this situation?" In reality, Sun Kong didn't truly want to reconcile, he just didn't want to fight Yi Tian here. A martial warrior with Grandmaster-level attack power was not easy to deal with, and the destructive power of such a battle could easily affect others. If they fought Yi Tian here and managed to kill him, the Sun family would also be severely damaged. His plan was to try to reconcile, and then ambush Yi Tian after he left. Unfortunately, his plan was doomed to fail. "Reconcile? Sorry, I don't agree. I'll give you a chance, everyone, come at me." Yi Tian was somewhat excited, he wanted to test just how strong he really was. Until now, he had only estimated his strength, and Sun Qinghe had been too weak to give him any sense of challenge. He wanted to know if the Sun family's experts could arouse his fighting spirit, so he had wasted time talking, waiting for the Sun family's experts to gather. During the brief conversation, almost all of the Sun family's experts had arrived. "All those below Grand Martial Warrior, leave!" Sun Kong shouted. freewebnovel.com. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 2 peak Grand Martial Warriors and 7 normal Grand Martial Warriors, a total of 9, surrounded Yi Tian. The battle was about to erupt. With a single glance, Yi Tian saw through their talent situation. The highest talent among them was just high-level cultivation talent, which was within his expectations. If there had been top-level cultivation talent, the Sun family would have produced a Grandmaster long ago. Apart from cultivation talent, among the 9 Grand Martial Warriors, 5 had blade talent. Among them, the 2 peak Grand Martial Warriors had medium-level blade talent. "The enemy is not weak, let's attack together and kill him," Sun Kong quickly said. Chapter 54. The appearance of a Grandmaster. When a lion hunts a rabbit, it still uses its full strength. Naturally, Sun Kong and the other Grand Martial Warriors didn't underestimate Yi Tian, they attacked with all their might. However, before Sun Kong and the others could even launch their attacks, Yi Tian struck first. Speed talent, strength talent, shadow kill. He activated 3 talents in succession. Although it wasn't Yi Tian's full-strength attack, it was not to be underestimated. The key was that Yi Tian's speed was too fast, reaching 12 times the speed of sound. Even peak Grand Martial warriors couldn't dodge in time. 2 ordinary Grand Martial warriors were targeted by Yi Tian and were decapitated with a single slash, dying on the spot. All of this happened in an instant. By the time Sun Kong and the others came to their senses, they found that they had already lost 2 Grand Martial warriors, leaving only 7. This speed. Sun Kong's expression changed dramatically. This was clearly not the speed of a Grand Martial warrior but that of a Grandmaster level, much faster than their own. He must have a high-level speed talent. Sun Kong felt envious. Having one special talent was already considered very talented. For example, although their Sun family had been greedy, using internal marriages to maintain the continuation of their blade talent, other families were still envious. If one had 2 special talents, that was definitely a blessing from heaven. Moreover, each talent level was not low, making people even more envious. He must be killed. Sun Kong was resolute. He knew very well that if Yi Tian was not killed today, once he truly grew up, he could easily annihilate the Sun family. Kill. The remaining Grand Martial warriors of the Sun family charged at Yi Tian as if they were on a suicide mission. One after another, they died at Yi Tian's hands, completely unable to cope with him. The gap in strength between the 2 sides was too great. Is this the mighty Sun family? Quite disappointing, Yi Tian said, after killing another Grand Martial warrior. These Grand Martial warriors posed no threat to him, they were too slow and too weak. In his eyes, they were as weak as infants who had just learned to crawl. Sun Ling, do it! Sun Kong shouted at the only female Grand Martial warrior, Sun Ling. This female Grand Martial warrior was another peak Grand Martial warrior of the Sun family. She was already very old and didn't have much time left. Because she was a woman, her status was slightly lower than Sun Kong's. Sun Ling charged at Yi Tian with a determined look, as if she was ready to die with him. At the same time, Sun Kong and the 2 remaining Grand Martial warriors retreated quickly. Die! A ferocious look appeared on Sun Ling's wrinkled face. The next moment, her aura surged several times and then exploded. Sun Ling's self-detonation was equivalent to a full-strength attack from a Grandmaster, covering a radius of 100 meters. All the houses within this range turned into debris, and even the ground was blasted into a large hole. Although Sun Kong and the others retreated in time, they were still affected due to the short time and suffered injuries, vomiting blood. Even if Yi Tian doesn't die, he will definitely be seriously injured. Sun Kong said excitedly. At such a close distance, it would be difficult for Yi Tian to dodge, no matter how fast he was. Moreover, the self-detonation caused by Sun Ling's secret technique was all-encompassing and difficult to avoid. For a Grandmaster, such a self-detonation was useless because a Grandmaster could resist it with defense alone. But Yi Tian was not a Grandmaster, his defense was far inferior to a Grandmaster's and he couldn't withstand such a self-detonation. It's just a pity about Sun Ling, Sun Kong thought to himself. Compared to the survival of the Sun family, Sun Ling's death wasn't valuable. At the same time, the people of the Sun family around them began to cry excitedly. Yi Tian is finally dead. Our Sun family is saved. Elder Sun Ling is truly great, she died with the enemy. Ha ha ha, what's the use of Yi Tian being a genius? He still died at the hands of our Sun family. However, just at that moment, a mocking voice emerged from the dust and haze. Are you celebrating a bit too early? Yi Tian walked out of the lingering dust, his clothes tattered but his body unscathed. Impossible, how can you be unharmed? Sun Kong stepped back in fright, his face drained of all color. The other members of the Sun family also turned pale, their eyes filled with despair. That was Elder Sun Ling's self-detonation, equivalent to a full-strength attack from a Grandmaster. It was an all-encompassing attack. Without Grandmaster-level defense, there was no way to survive it unscathed. Yet Yi Tian had done just that. However, only Yi Tian himself knew that he hadn't blocked it, he was severely injured. His defense was indeed a weakness. Although he had tried to escape at 12 times the speed of sound, he was still a step too late. He hadn't expected a Grand Martial warrior to use a self-detonation technique. If he had anticipated it, he wouldn't have given Sun Ling the chance to self-detonate. However, he was still several tens of meters away from the center of the explosion. Relying solely on the defense of an elite martial warrior, he was only severely injured. Under the effects of his top-tier healing talent, his injuries stabilized within a dozen seconds. At the very least, there were no visible wounds on his surface anymore. I was careless. Yi Tian had to admit that he had underestimated the Grand Martial warriors, but he wouldn't do so anymore. Run! Sun Kong shouted and was the first to flee. However, no matter how fast he was, he couldn't outpace Yi Tian. In a flash of light, Yi Tian caught up with Sun Kong. The next moment, Sun Kong's body fell to the ground. In just a moment, Yi Tian had killed Sun Kong. Just as Yi Tian was preparing to go on a killing spree, a heavy voice came from a distance. "Young friend, could you do me a favor and spare these people of the Sun family?" As the voice fell, an old man in white appeared in Yi Tian's line of sight. Grand Master. Yi Tian recognized the man's identity at a glance. The aura of a Grand Master was unmistakable, something a Grand Martial warrior couldn't compare to. Soon, this Grand Master came within 50 meters of Yi Tian. Check. Human. Yao Yi. Cultivation talent. High level. So, he's just an ordinary Grand Master. Yi Tian no longer considered him a threat. Given his high-level cultivation talent, his cultivation level must be at the early stage of a Grand Master. A mere early-stage Grand Master, with a strength of at most 1.5 million Jin, even with the amplification of elemental force, would only have 3 million Jin of strength. Yi Tian's maximum attack power could reach 6 million Jin. As for speed, an ordinary Grand Master could have a speed of 10 times the speed of sound at best, while Yi Tian had 12 times the speed of sound, similarly overwhelming this Grand Master. The real advantage of this Grand Master was his defense. But as long as Yi Tian didn't let him injure him, defense was irrelevant. In terms of strength, this Grand Master was inferior to him. "Why should I do you a favor?" Yi Tian spoke neither humbly nor arrogantly. The old man, Yao Yi, looked deeply at Yi Tian. "Because I am a Grand Master." P.S. Please leave a review on novel updates. Chapter 55. The Fall of a Grand Master. Grand Master. That alone isn't enough to qualify you for a favor. Yi Tian showed no respect for Yao Yi, the Grand Master. Gasps of astonishment erupted from the crowd, including those who had come to watch the excitement. They were shocked by Yi Tian's audacity. After all, Yao Yi was a Grand Master. Could Yi Tian, no matter how powerful, really contend with a Grand Master? "Master Yao, please stand up for our Sun family." The last two surviving Grand Martial warriors of the Sun family walked up to Yao Yi and knelt before him, pleading. "We beg Master Yao to stand up for our Sun family." Many members of the Sun family also knelt on the ground, imploring Yao Yi. "I'll take care of it," Yao Yi said indifferently. In truth, he didn't really care about the lives of the Sun family members, but the Sun family was a clan that had come from the Tia Iron Fang base. If they were wiped out shortly after arriving at the Linhai base, the impact would be significant. If he, as one of the two Grand Masters of the Tia base, remained indifferent, it would imply that the Tia base was afraid of the Linhai base. How then could the Tia base faction continue to control the Linhai base? Therefore, for the sake of the dignity of the martial warriors of the Tia base faction, he had to suppress the Linhai base faction. He would never allow Yi Tian to annihilate the Sun family. This was also why he had come here as soon as he heard that the Sun family was in trouble. "Young man, I'll give you another choice. Apologize to the Sun family, and I can overlook your offense against me," Yao Yi said arrogantly, as if he were high above everyone else. Indeed, as a Grand Master, he had grown accustomed to throwing his weight around in the Tia base, considering everyone below the level of a Grand Master to be insignificant. Even Sun Kong, a peak Grand Martial warrior, was nothing more than a strong ant in his eyes. It was precisely these misunderstandings that led Yao Yi to completely disregard Yi Tian. "Your name is Yao Yi, right? I'll give you a choice too. Apologize to me and leave, and I can also overlook your offense against me. Otherwise, you'll fall here just like the Sun family," Yi Tian said, infuriating Yao Yi and shocking the onlookers. Threatening a Grand Master, how audacious could he be? At this moment, the Sun family members were elated. "He's going to die. How dare he offend a Grand Master? Once he's dead, we'll be safe," many in the Sun family thought to themselves. "Die." Yao Yi flicked a finger, and a burst of energy shot out at an incredible speed, reaching 10 times the speed of sound. Such speed was too fast for Grand Martial warriors to react to, let alone defend against. If it were Sun Kong facing Yao Yi, even if Sun Kong were stronger, he probably wouldn't be able to block even one burst of energy from Yao Yi. He would be severely injured or even killed instantly. This was one of the advantages of being fast. Unfortunately, Yao Yi had underestimated Yi Tian. With a flick of his knife, Yi Tian deflected Yao Yi's energy burst, then mocked, "You're too slow." "Interesting. You were able to block my energy burst. No wonder you could sweep through the Sun family," Yao Yi said, somewhat surprised, but that was all. That energy burst was just a test, he hadn't really made his move yet. Whoosh! Yao Yi finally made his move, disappearing in an instant as if he had teleported. This was the manifestation of supersonic speed. At close distances, it really did look almost like teleportation. At 10 times the speed of sound, Yao Yi was confident that he could easily deal with Yi Tian. He appeared next to Yi Tian and reached for his neck. However, a knife swung toward him. With a splattering sound, one of Yao Yi's hands was severed and fell to the ground. Not good. Yao Yi was shocked. He formed a protective shield with his elemental force and retreated with all his might. He retreated quickly, but Yi Tian's attack was even faster. In the blink of an eye, Yi Tian caught up and unleashed another sweeping Qingfeng slash, wind slash, the sword technique that he won in the bet against Sun Feng. Boom! The Qingfeng slash struck Yao Yi, shattering his elemental shield on the spot, and sending him flying backward. Yao Yi's upper garment was completely torn, and a knife mark over an inch deep was left on his chest. It was a horrifying sight. Grandmaster level speed, Grandmaster level attack. Yao Yi quickly assessed Yi Tian's true strength and was instantly shocked. Yi Tian's attack and speed both surpassed him. Even if his defense was lacking, it didn't matter much. Yi Tian was essentially a true Grandmaster. Damn it, has the Sun family gone mad? They've provoked a Grandmaster. Yao Yi deeply regretted getting involved on behalf of the Sun family. Friend, I concede, Yao Yi hurriedly said. I don't accept your surrender, Yi Tian coldly responded. Yao Yi fled, and Yi Tian pursued. The two quickly left the residential area of the Sun family. Suddenly, another blade light from Yi Tian severed one of Yao Yi's hands. Facing desperation, Yao Yi shouted, "Old man Li, come save me." The old man Li that Yao Yi was calling for was none other than the other Grandmaster of the Tia Iron Fang base. As soon as his words fell, a man in grey cloth appeared, but it only deepened Yao Yi's despair. Master Yi, this matter has nothing to do with me. Old man Li immediately made his stance clear. Old man Li, you. Yao Yi's face turned green with anger. Old man Li was slightly stronger than him. If they teamed up, perhaps there would be a chance for survival. But now, old man Li clearly didn't want to get involved, leaving him with zero hope. Yi Tian, I'll fight you to the death. Desperate, Yao Yi charged at Yi Tian, using a burst technique to increase his strength. However, it was all in vain. Shadow Kill. Yi Tian's 12-fold speed of sound combined with Shadow Kill made his blade incredibly fast. Yao Yi, who had just activated his burst technique, was too slow to react and was decapitated by Yi Tian's blade. A Grandmaster had fallen. From a distance, old man Li, who had been watching the battle, paused for a moment, a hint of relief flashing deep in his eyes. I've met Master Yi. Old man Li ran over, cupping his hands in a very polite manner. You're not planning to stand up for the Sun family, are you? Yi Tian asked indifferently. The Sun family offended Master Yi, they brought this upon themselves. Master Yi need not worry, from this day on, the Sun family will cease to exist. Old man Li's words were very clear. He would help Yi Tian deal with the Sun family to show his stance. He was afraid. After all, Yi Tian's strength was terrifying. Yao Yi had been killed without any resistance, so he naturally wasn't Yi Tian's match either. Fearing that Yi Tian might kill him, he could only try to appease him this way. Good, I don't want to see the Sun family again after tomorrow. Yi Tian left these words and walked away. Chapter 56. Ascension to Great Warrior. After Yi Tian departed, old man Li headed towards the Sun family residence. Subsequently, harrowing screams emanated from the Sun family's abode. The next day, a piece of news shocked the entire Linhai base. The Sun family had been annihilated. The person responsible for their downfall was Yi Tian, the very same who had bested Sun Feng in a duel. The shock stemmed from the fact that everyone had only considered Yi Tian as an extraordinarily powerful elite warrior, someone who could at most hold his own against weaker great warriors. Who could have anticipated that Yi Tian was such a freak of nature, single-handedly destroying the entire Sun family? But even more explosive was the news that one of the two Grandmasters, Grandmaster Yao Yi, had died. This was even more shocking than the annihilation of the Sun family. After all, a Grandmaster was exponentially more powerful than a great warrior. Linhai base didn't have a single Grandmaster, and the newly joined Tia base had only two. Now that one had been killed, the remaining Grandmaster had gone so far as to proactively kill the remaining members of the Sun family as a gesture of goodwill. What did this indicate? Yi Tian was now invincible in Linhai base, and no one could challenge him. Upon receiving this news, many who knew Yi Tian were flabbergasted. The Wind Wolf hunting squad. When Wind Wolf heard the news, he was stunned for a moment. Brother Yi Tian actually annihilated the Sun family and even killed a Grandmaster. Wind Wolf wasn't fully aware of how strong a Grandmaster was, but he did know the Sun family's capabilities. The family had a full 10 great warriors, 2 of whom were peak level. Most of the Sun family warriors could crush opponents of their level due to their talent in blade skills, even those stronger than themselves. Initially, knowing Sun Feng's background, he had genuinely worried for Yi Tian for a long time. Who could have thought that in just a few months, Yi Tian had destroyed the Sun family and even killed a Grandmaster? Brother Yi Tian is becoming more and more powerful. I don't even have the qualifications to look up to him anymore. Wind Wolf exclaimed emotionally. However, he felt honored to even know Yi Tian. If he talked about this connection, it would be enough to make others green with envy. The Lin family. Lin Wanli held the intelligence report in his hand and was speechless for a long while. He was, indeed, stunned. The Sun family has been annihilated, Grandmaster Yao Yi has been killed. Yi Tian's power has reached such an extent. I suspect his talent is not high-level cultivation talent, but rather top-level. He has reached the level of a Grandmaster in both strength and speed, he likely possesses talents in both. Lin Wanli speculated. Unlike others, he was actually pleased to see Yi Tian's rise because Yi Tian was on the side of Lin Hai base. With Yi Tian's presence, Lin Hai base could easily crush Tia base. I'll visit Grandmaster Yi Tian tomorrow. Lin Wanli decided. It wasn't a matter of currying favor, given the Lin family's status, they were in no position to ingratiate themselves with Yi Tian. But since Yi Tian was now the strongest in Lin Hai base, it would be inappropriate for the Lin family not to pay a visit. If they could establish even a modest relationship, it would be greatly advantageous for the Lin family. The Lin family wasn't the only one with this thought, many other families wanted to build a relationship with Yi Tian. And so, on that day, numerous heads of families and elders had come to Yi Tian's residence, each bringing a generous gift, specifically to pay him a visit. Yet, Yi Tian had but one response for all of them, complete refusal. Moreover, Yi Tian disseminated a single statement, he simply wanted to cultivate in peace and quiet, and no one should disturb his training. For many of the prominent families, this was good news. At the very least, Yi Tian had no ambition for hegemony and thus posed no threat to their interests. The Sun family was undoubtedly an exception. Had they not provoked Yi Tian, they wouldn't have suffered such a fate. Subsequently, all the families issued orders that no one was to provoke Yi Tian or Yi Yu. For a time, Yi Yu became the most untouchable person in her school. With no one daring to disturb him, Yi Tian naturally had ample time to cultivate. His villa was promptly repaired by the developers of the Central Garden, and at no charge, because Yi Tian's residence brought them enormous benefits. To put it plainly, the value of the villas in the area had multiplied several times, bringing in untold profits. The developers naturally wouldn't skimp on such trivial repair costs. Days rolled by. Almost a month had passed since the Sun family's demise, and Yi Tian had finally honed the cultivation of his skin, flesh, bones, and blood to the extreme. His foundation had become incredibly solid. It's time to refine my internal organs, Yi Tian decided. Elite warriors refined their blood, while great warriors refined their internal organs to be as resilient as steel, impervious to damage. Once the internal organs were fully refined, even ingesting poison wouldn't harm them. Though elite warriors had stronger organs than the average person, they still couldn't safely ingest poison. Once he started refining his internal organs, Yi Tian would break through his bottleneck and automatically advance to the realm of a great warrior, with his power gradually climbing. Let's begin, Yi Tian murmured, following the intermediate elemental body training method and swallowing a dose of high-grade beast blood. Under Yi Tian's control, the energy generated from the refinement seeped into his internal organs, gradually refining them. Boom! The invisible shackles were utterly shattered, and his physical strength soared rapidly. Yi Tian was well aware that he had ascended to the realm of a great warrior. Breaking through from an elite to a great warrior was a significant advancement, not only enhancing his mental strength but also substantially improving his physical power, speed, and defense. Initially, Yi Tian's mental range could only cover a few tens of meters, but now it was rapidly expanding. My mental range has covered 200 meters, whereas a typical early-stage great warrior only covers 20 meters. My mental power is on par with a peak-level great warrior, but still far from a grandmaster, Yi Tian estimated. He then tested his speed, 20 times the speed of sound, far faster than before. As for his strength, it had not increased by much, only reaching 120,000 jin of force. After all, he had just broken through and would gradually improve with cultivation. His defense, too, had improved several times, but it was still relatively weak. This was a vulnerability he couldn't rectify until he acquired a defense talent. The high-grade beast blood is almost gone, it's time for another trip to the Shaocheni forest, Yi Tian muttered to himself. Chapter 57. Finally found it. Chapter 57. Finally found it. When Yi Tian left this time, he had no concerns for the safety of his younger sister, Yi Yu. By now, he was the strongest warrior in the Linhai base. Anyone who dared mess with his sister would be courting death. After leaving the base, Yi Tian headed straight for the Shaocheni forest. He arrived at the forest quickly and reached the territory where the Shaojin tribe was located. Master. Shaojin saw Yi Tian and hurried over. Shaojin had undergone significant changes since Yi Tian last saw him. He was much larger, and his aura was much more powerful. High-grade ferocious beast. Yi Tian immediately noticed that Shaojin had evolved from an intermediate ferocious beast to a high-grade one. He wasn't surprised by Shaojin's advancement. If he himself could progress from an elite martial warrior to a grand martial warrior, then it was only natural for Shaojin, who had top-tier bloodline talents, to advance to a high-grade ferocious beast. Shaojin, having advanced to an high-grade ferocious beast, had grown strong enough to hunt peak-level high-grade ferocious beasts, though he was still no match for top-tier ferocious beasts. Shaojin's strength was still too weak to harm them. Shaojin, how has your collection of ferocious beast blood been going? Yi Tian inquired. Master, come with Shaojin. Eagerly, Shaojin led Yi Tian to where the ferocious beast blood was stored. So much ferocious beast blood. Yi Tian was truly stunned. Several large pools were filled with high-grade ferocious beast blood, and the intermediate ferocious beast blood was even more abundant, filling at least a dozen large pools. About 10,000 portions of high-grade ferocious beast blood, and at least 200,000 portions of intermediate ferocious beast blood, Yi Tian estimated. For him, intermediate beast blood was of little use now, but his sister was about to advance into the martial warrior realm and would soon need it for body tempering. Some of this intermediate beast blood could be sold, and some could be saved for his sister. As for the high-grade ferocious beast blood, it was useful to him. A grand martial warrior's cultivation also required a vast amount of high-grade ferocious beast blood. The quantity he saw might not even suffice for his own cultivation to reach the peak of the grand martial warrior level. Well done. Yi Tian praised Shaojin, then instructed, from now on, there's no need to collect intermediate ferocious beast blood. If you encounter any, just consume them yourself. But continue to collect more high-grade ferocious beast blood, I still have use for it. Master, Shaojin understands. Shaojin obediently nodded. In the time that followed, Yi Tian shuttled back and forth between the Shaocheni forest and Linhai base, transporting the collected ferocious beast blood. Though the amount was large, Yi Tian's speed was extraordinary. What did moving at 20 times the speed of sound mean? It meant covering 6.8 kilometers in a single second. Of course, actual running wouldn't reach such speeds due to obstacles. If he really ran that fast, he would crash into countless beasts and rocks. The 20-fold speed was only possible in short-distance movements during battle. Even so, transporting the ferocious beast blood to the Linhai base took him mere seconds. He even built a secret underground chamber beneath his villa to store it. After emptying the pools, Yi Tian assigned another task to Shaojin, to find a ferocious beast with extraordinary defensive capabilities, a weakness Yi Tian was eager to compensate for. Yi Tian's duplication talent was available for use again. Since he had not come across any good talents to copy, he duplicated Shaojin's stamina talent. And so, Yi Tian's array of talents changed once more. Thus, Yi Tian's talent configuration evolved as follows. Human, Yi Tian, cultivation talent, top tier. Speed talent, top tier. Blade skill talent, intermediate tier. Shadow talent, low. Healing talent, top tier. Strength talent, high tier. Stamina talent, intermediate tier. With his newfound stamina talent, Yi Tian was now capable of fighting for extended periods. He no longer feared being surrounded by enemies, as his robust physical strength allowed him to maintain peak combat abilities for an extended time. Afterward, Yi Tian returned to Linhai base and began a long period of closed-door cultivation, occasionally visiting Shaocheni forest. Thus, another month elapsed. Having just entered the realm of a grand warrior, Yi Tian found himself in a phase where his strength could rise rapidly. After consuming a significant amount of high-tier beast blood, his physical strength had increased to 150,000 catties, roughly on par with most warriors who were in the early stage of the grand warrior level. One day, Yi Tian returned to Shaocheni forest. Upon seeing him, Xiao Jin excitedly exclaimed, "Master, I've discovered a beast with extraordinary defensive capabilities." "Really?" Yi Tian's eyes flickered with delight as he asked. "Yes, I dispatched many of my tribe to look for beasts that appeared to have strong defenses. A few days ago, we finally discovered a large serpent covered in scales. It's also a high-tier beast. I personally engaged it but found that my attacks couldn't harm it in the slightest. However, my speed was much faster than its, so it couldn't do anything to me either." Xiao Jin hurriedly explained. A high-tier beast that even Xiao Jin couldn't handle. Intrigued, Yi Tian was immediately convinced that the creature must possess extraordinary defensive abilities, likely stemming from a defensive talent. "Where is it, Xiao Jin? Take me there," Yi Tian urgently commanded. Hitching a ride on Xiao Jin's back, Yi Tian rapidly moved deeper into Shaocheni Forest. Due to the dense foliage, their speed was somewhat hampered. About 10 minutes later, they had ventured deep into the forest. At this moment, Yi Tian and Xiao Jin arrived at a pool. "Master, this is the place." Xiao Jin pointed at the pool, where the depths remained enigmatic. As Yi Tian approached the pool, he sensed a menacing aura emanating from within it. Suddenly, a gigantic serpent emerged from the water, revealing its upper half. Its body was pitch black and covered in numerous shiny scales, each gleaming like a precious gem. Its body must be at least 30 meters long, Yi Tian estimated. Subconsciously, he checked the serpent's talent configuration. Species: black-scaled python. Bloodline talent: high tier. Defensive talent: intermediate tier. Intermediate tier defensive talent. Although it's not that high, it's enough to compensate for my shortcomings. I can replicate and upgrade it when I encounter a higher tier defensive talent in the future. With that thought, Yi Tian covertly replicated the black-scaled python's intermediate tier defensive talent. Chapter 58. The White Giant Ape. The black-scaled python hissed menacingly at Xiao Jin. It recognized the small golden creature. Xiao Jin had harassed it a few days earlier, and the encounter had left it painfully bruised. The python had harbored a grudge against Xiao Jin ever since. Now, coming across Xiao Jin again, it couldn't help but launch an attack. Yi Tian looked at the enormous body of the black-scaled python and chuckled. With a body this large, it should yield a few hundred portions of high-grade beast blood. Its skin can also be fashioned into protective clothing. My apologies. Yi Tian moved, activating his 20-fold sonic speed and his strength talent. freewebnovel.com. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. With each stroke, Yi Tian targeted the python's vital area. The scales, which seemed indestructible in Xiao Jin's eyes, were easily shattered by Yi Tian's blade. Yi Tian's offensive power was incomparable to Xiao Jin's. It reached the level of a grandmaster. The python's defense, strong though it might have been, was only comparable to a grandmaster's. Even Yao Yi, a grandmaster, couldn't withstand his attacks, so naturally, the python stood no chance either. In the span of a second, Yi Tian had struck the same spot countless times. The python's vital area was now pierced by a large hole, and its heart had been thoroughly punctured by Yi Tian, its life force gradually fading away. Boom! The black-scaled python collapsed onto the ground, lifeless. At that moment, Xiao Jin widened its eyes, looking incredulously at its master, Yi Tian. It remembered that although its master had been stronger than it, the difference wasn't this vast. How could so much change have occurred in such a short period? A python that even it couldn't handle was easily slain by Yi Tian. Worthy of being my master, Xiao Jin thought to itself, filled with pride. After killing the black-scaled python, Yi Tian hastily collected its heart's blood. The heart's blood was undoubtedly the essence of a beast's life force, rich and pure in energy. Once he had collected all the heart blood, Yi Tian gathered several dozen portions of high-grade beast blood. After ensuring no more blood would leak, he had Xiao Jin drag the python's corpse back. It took a considerable amount of time to bring the python's corpse back to Xiao Jin's dwelling. There, the remaining high-grade beast blood was deposited into a blood pool. Xiao Jin, the body of this black-scaled python is yours to consume. Just remember to leave the skin, Yi Tian instructed. Okay, Xiao Jin agreed. It had no desire to eat the python's tough skin anyway, it was too hard to bite into. Even if Yi Tian hadn't ordered it, Xiao Jin wouldn't have consumed the python's skin. As Xiao Jin relished the meat of the black-scaled python, Yi Tian began to integrate a medium-grade defense talent. Integrate, Yi Tian mentally commanded. Swiftly, heat suffused his body, beads of sweat trickling down. His skin tingled painfully, and his body flushed red. This was the process of talent transformation. 10 minutes passed, and the integration of the defense talent was successful. With a thought, the status of his talents displayed on his retinas. Human, Yi Tian, cultivation talent, top tier. Speed talent, top tier. Blade talent, medium. Shadow talent, low. Healing talent, top tier. Strength talent, high. Endurance talent, medium. Defense talent, medium. In addition to my cultivation talent, I now possess 7 unique talents. I'm probably the only one in the world with these, Yi Tian declared proudly. Let's test the effects of my medium-level defense talent. Yi Tian took out an intermediate yuanli knife and lightly slashed his own left forearm. Thud, the yuanli knife was deflected. The force he had used was not considerable, amounting to no more than a few tens of thousands of jin, a unit of weight, so it was unsurprising that the blade didn't pierce his skin. Consequently, Yi Tian increased his exertion, going up to 150,000 jin, yet he still couldn't break through his skin's defense. Strength talent. Yi Tian activated his strength talent, causing his bodily power to surge tenfold. Next, he experimented with a force of 200,000 jin, but still failed to breach his bodily defenses. He then increased the force further, finally piercing his skin with a strength of 250,000 jin. However, this was merely relying on his skin to withstand the attack. True martial warriors would utilize yuanli to form a protective barrier, and the efficacy of this barrier was directly related to the body's physical defenses. Yuanli shield. A faint layer of yuanli membrane enveloped his skin. Yi Tian tried slashing his skin again, this time using the knife with a force of 1,500,000 jin before finally breaking through his bodily defense. 1,500,000 jin. With this level of defense, I can withstand an attack of 1,500,000 jin. Most top-level martial warriors won't be able to break through my defense. And this is just the beginning. Once I advance to the peak of top-level martial arts, I doubt even they could pierce my defense by simply striking me. Yi Tian was extremely satisfied with his current bodily defense. With this layer of defense and his top-tier healing talent, his ability to preserve his life had multiplied several times over. In the following month, Yi Tian spent most of his time in the Shaoqianyi forest, occasionally returning to the Linhai base. During his time in the forest, Yi Tian trained vigorously, working together with Xiao Jin to slay dozens of high-level beasts and collect large quantities of their blood. Amidst this fervent training, both Yi Tian and Xiao Jin experienced rapid increases in their respective strengths. Finally, one day, Yi Tian raised his bodily strength to the level of 200,000 jin. Xiao Jin had also reached the peak of the early stages of high-level beasts. His speed had also increased a notch, almost reaching 25 times the speed of sound, while Yi Tian's speed had reached a level of 23 times the speed of sound. However, Yi Tian and Xiao Jin's frenzied actions had severely reduced the number of high-level beasts in the area, eventually attracting the attention of a top-level beast deep within the Shaoqianyi forest. Boom! A white giant ape, 50 meters tall, emerged from the depths of the Shaoqianyi forest and began to patrol the vast area where Xiao Jin was located. This area was its territory, and the high-level beasts served under it. They were required to provide offerings of blood and flesh at regular intervals in exchange for its protection. But the offerings in the last few months had been too sparse. Not particularly intelligent, the ape was considerably angered, prompting it to personally address the issue. Upon arriving, it was dumbstruck, not a single high-level beast was left. Could they have run away? Thought the white giant ape. Boom, boom, boom. The white giant ape moved forward, each step causing giant trees to fall over in its wake. Suddenly, it sensed the aura of a high-level beast and immediately moved toward it. The high-level beast it sensed was none other than Xiao Jin. Chapter 59. The Terrifying Titan Ape. Xiao Jin was joyfully exploring the forest in search of high-level beasts. Unfortunately, the number of such beasts in this particular area was dwindling. It was becoming increasingly difficult to find any more high-level prey. As for venturing further afield, Xiao Jin dared not. An unspoken understanding told it that those distant lands were off-limits. As a high-level beast itself, it was well aware of the rigid hierarchy that governed Shaoqianyi Forest. Every territory was under the rule of a high-level beast, and Xiao Jin, being a high-level beast, had its own dominion. There was a time when it was merely a medium-level creature. Several high-level beasts had sought to subdue its tribe. Each time, however, they were repelled by Xiao Jin. Consequently, even as a mere medium-level beast, it had established itself as a minor lord over a small patch of land. That was history. Now, Xiao Jin could effortlessly slay a high-level beast and was virtually invincible in this area. Yet, it dared not venture deeper into the forest. Those depths were the haunts of top-tier beasts. Were it to encounter one, not only would it stand no chance, but escape might also be impossible. So, Xiao Jin was content to roam its limited territory. Its master had said that they weren't in a hurry to find high-level beasts and would be leaving the forest soon anyway, taking Xiao Jin along. Suddenly, a chilling aura emanated from a distance. Top-tier beast. Though it had never encountered a top-tier beast, the aura was unmistakably that of one. Whoosh! Xiao Jin moved quickly, racing toward its master. It needed to alert him to leave Xiaocheni Forest immediately. From afar, a massive white ape turned its gaze toward Xiao Jin, its eyes seemingly piercing through the space to lock onto it. The ape didn't recognize Xiao Jin, but any creature found in its territory was expected to submit. Failure to do so would make them a mere snack. Whoosh! The white ape moved. Its colossal body effortlessly leapt thousands of meters, ignoring the towering trees. While not much faster than Xiao Jin, the ape's massive frame and powerful leaps allowed it to navigate the forest more easily. Soon enough, the white ape caught up with Xiao Jin. Staring at the mountainous body of the white ape and sensing its horrifying aura, Xiao Jin trembled uncontrollably. Just then, it felt its master's presence nearby. "Master, come save me." Xiao Jin reached out through mental telepathy to Yi Tian, its owner. This was a unique form of communication between a pet beast and its master, only effective over short distances. At this moment, Yi Tian had naturally noticed the white ape as well. The ape's terrifying aura pervaded a range of 10 miles, so obvious that ignoring it was impossible. Xiao Jin. Yi Tian was frantic. He had heard Xiao Jin's cry for help. With its current strength, Xiao Jin had no chance against a top-tier beast. freewebnovel.com. Faster, faster, faster. Yi Tian sped through the forest, finally reaching a point not far from Xiao Jin. He then saw the white ape's enormous hand reaching down, shadowing the sky as it closed in on Xiao Jin. Under that enormous palm, the frail Xiao Jin seemed paralyzed, unable to move. This is no ordinary top-tier beast. Yi Tian's pupils contracted. The power was overwhelming. This creature was likely a middle or even late-stage top-tier beast. The force was too immense. It likely ranked as average or even higher among top-tier beasts. While Yi Tian might have been able to bully weaker top-tier beasts, against a creature like the white giant ape, he stood no chance. And yet, Yi Tian took action. Xiao Jin was his first beast companion and had helped him a lot. If he couldn't even save Xiao Jin, then he would be utterly useless. Moreover, the white giant ape wasn't so powerful as to completely extinguish his hope. Rescue. Yi Tian immediately took action. Speed talent, activate. Strength talent, activate. Defense talent, activate. One by one, his talents activated. In full form, Yi Tian executed a bronze-level blade technique, the Qingfeng Slash. Not only did he give it his all, but he also integrated a partial blade intent, the result of his months of hard work. Enhanced by blade intent, the blade's light warped the void, full of sharp energy, as if it could cleave the void itself. The dazzling green blade light transformed into a heavenly blade, slashing upward, clashing with the palm of the white giant ape. Boom! The green blade light struck the palm of the white giant ape, successfully cutting off some white hairs and leaving a mark on its palm. But that was it didn't even break the skin. Xiao Jin, run! Yi Tian shouted. Xiao Jin quickly understood, activated its top speed, and began to flee, with Yi Tian close behind. The white giant ape was furious. It had been wounded by a mere insect. This was humiliation. Boom! The white giant ape's fist blasted through the air. The void vibrated, countless giant trees turned to dust, and Yi Tian felt a surge of immense power coming at him. He reflexively slashed with all his might. A deafening sound. The overpowering force sent Yi Tian flying, his protective yuan shield shattered instantaneously, and even his flesh showed multiple cracks. However, under the effects of his top-tier healing talent, his injuries quickly healed. What a tremendous attack power, definitely at 30 million jin of force. Yi Tian estimated. His body strength was at 200,000 jin, which could reach 2 million jin with his strength talent. After a 6x amplification from the Qingfeng Slash and additional yuan force, it could reach 24 million jin. Yet the white giant ape could effortlessly break his attack and injure him this severely, definitely boasting a force of 30 million jin. Check. In a split second, Yi Tian discerned the talents of the white giant ape. Species. Titan Forest Ape Bloodline Talent, top-tier strength talent, low level. My god, it has a top-tier bloodline and even a low-level strength talent. This Titan Forest Ape hasn't reached its limit, otherwise, one hit would have been enough to kill me. Even my top-tier healing talent wouldn't have saved me. Yi Tian was shocked. Escape. he was absolutely no match. Originally, he wanted to stay longer in the Shaocheni forest, but now it was clear that he couldn't. Fortunately, the Titan forest ape was not fast, and he and Xiao Jin still had a chance to escape. Boom! The Titan forest ape threw another punch at Yi Tian, but still did not kill him, merely injuring him. Yet under his top-tier healing talent, Yi Tian recovered again, like a cockroach that wouldn't die. One attack after another, and each time Yi Tian survived. And so, Yi Tian and Xiao Jin gradually ran toward the edge of the Shaocheni forest. Whoosh! A flash of light crossed before their eyes, and Yi Tian found himself and Xiao Jin successfully escaping from the Shaocheni forest, emerging into a vast expanse of land. Chapter 60. News from the Grand Base. Chapter 60. News from the Grand Base. Having reached the outskirts of the Shaocheni forest, Yi Tian and Xiao Jin could finally unleash their true speed. The open terrain had few obstacles, so they could run at high velocity without colliding into anything. Compared to their helpless situation within the Shaocheni forest, this was like heaven and earth. Yi Tian climbed onto Xiao Jin's back, and the creature gathered its strength. At 25 times the speed of sound, it transformed into a streak of flowing light, racing across the land. Behind them, the Titan ape emerged from the Shaocheni forest, giving chase. Realizing it couldn't match Xiao Jin's speed, it pounded its chest in frustration and roared a few times before reluctantly returning to the forest. Seeing that the Titan ape had given up pursuit, Yi Tian immediately instructed Xiao Jin to stop. By this time, they were hundreds of miles away from the Linhai base. He didn't dare run in the direction of the base because it was still too close to the Shaocheni forest. If the Titan ape had pursued them all the way to Linhai base, it would have been a major disaster. To ensure the safety of Linhai base, Yi Tian guided Xiao Jin to sprint in another direction, deliberately avoiding the base. Afterward, Yi Tian and Xiao Jin searched for the route back to Linhai base. It took them about half an hour to finally find it. Of course, he wouldn't admit that he had almost gotten lost. Upon returning to Linhai base riding Xiao Jin, Yi Tian once again astounded countless people. Taming a fierce beast was something that many couldn't achieve because most such creatures were of low intelligence and had no concept of surrender. In the minds of these beasts, there were only two possibilities: the enemy dies, or they die. Many great warriors had tried to tame a medium-level beast, but all had failed. Yet Yi Tian had tamed a high-level beast like the golden dragon leopard. If people knew that Xiao Jin had top-tier speed talents, they'd probably die of jealousy. Such a creature was incredibly valuable. Back at home, Yi Yu saw the 10-meter-long Xiao Jin and felt a bit intimidated. Just having become a martial warrior, she found it hard to bear Xiao Jin's overpowering aura. Xiao Jin, restrain your aura. Yi Tian quickly patted Xiao Jin's head. Master. Xiao Jin wagged its tail and gave a somewhat aggrieved low growl to Yi Tian, but ultimately complied and subdued its aura. If it weren't for its enormous size, it would look just like a little kitten. Sister, this is Xiao Jin, my tamed beast. You two should get acquainted. Don't worry, Xiao Jin won't harm you. Yi Tian introduced Xiao Jin to his sister. Encouraged by him, Yi Yu finally greeted Xiao Jin, saying, "Hello Xiao Jin, I'm Yi Yu." Xiao Jin nuzzled its head against Yi Yu's, signaling friendliness. It understood that the young girl before it was its master's sister, and potentially someone it would need to protect in the future. Yes, Yi Tian had already told it that if he was ever absent, Xiao Jin would be responsible for ensuring Yi Yu's safety. It didn't dare disobey its master's orders, so it took the initiative to establish a good relationship with Yi Yu. Yi Tian went to meet the pavilion branch master of Linhai base. The pavilion master had always been a mysterious figure, seldom seen by others. Had it not been for Yi Tian's current status, the pavilion master would not have agreed to meet him. Originally, Yi Tian thought that the master of the martial pavilion would be an elderly man. However, upon meeting the master, he realized that the man was only in his 30s and possessed extraordinary talent. Human. Yu Zhong. Cultivation talent. High. Sword talent. Medium. Strength talent. Low. Having a high cultivation talent wasn't something unusual. In Tia Iron Fang base, a medium-sized base, there were quite a few individuals with high cultivation talents. Yu Zhong, as the master of the martial pavilion branch in Linhai base and coming from a large base, could only be considered a minor genius in that regard. However, his medium talent in swordsmanship and low talent in strength were extremely exceptional. The two could be combined, showcasing Yu Zhong's incredible strength, even surpassing individuals like Sun Kong from the Sun family. Greetings, master of the martial pavilion. Yi Tian courteously greeted. Yu Zhong promptly replied, I am but a branch master of the Martial Pavilion in Linhai Base. Grand Master Yi is too courteous. May I ask what brings you to see me? Yi Tian did not refute the title of Grand Master that Yu Zhang used for him. Master Yu, you come from a large base, correct? I would like to know how to get there. Yu Zhang smiled faintly. He wasn't surprised by Yi Tian's question. After all, Yi Tian was so young yet already unrivaled in Linhai Base. Such a talented individual would naturally not be content staying in a weaker base like Linhai. He was surely drawn to the large bases. freewebnovel.com. Without concealing anything, Yu Zhang said, I come from Demon Sea Base, which is a large base 3,000 kilometers away from Linhai Base. This distance is not great for a Grandmaster. However, the journey is extremely dangerous. One may even encounter top-tier ferocious beasts if unlucky. Therefore, we from the large base only send people to Linhai Base every year. There are only two real branches of large base powers in Linhai Base. One is our Martial Pavilion and the other is the bank, which is a subsidiary of Demon Sea Bank. The bank rarely sends people, while we from the Martial Pavilion have consistently sent people once a year. Master Yu, do you mean that I can only go to the large base when the Martial Pavilion sends people once a year? Is it not possible to go alone? Yi Tian asked. Yu Zhang chuckled, going alone is not an option. Grand Master Yi, you're not familiar with large bases, are you? I'm not, Yi Tian nodded. Yu Zhang explained, over 100 years ago, Earth was much smaller, and cities were close to each other. But then came the apocalypse, and extraterrestrial beasts descended through spatial rifts. Not only did Earth produce elemental energy, it also grew incredibly large, estimated to have expanded hundreds of times, though the exact extent is unknown. Initially, the human population did decrease considerably, but over these 100 years, the large bases claimed vast territories, promoting a high birth rate. Therefore, each large base has a high population, advanced technology, and plenty of talent. Do you know how many people are in Demon Sea Base? 1 million, Yi Tian ventured a guess. 10 million, Yu Zhang emphasized. What? Yi Tian was genuinely shocked. This was the post-apocalypse, and yet a large base had 10 million people, comparable to top-tier cities in the previous world. 10 million people contribute to immense power, Yu Zhang continued. With the efforts of countless people, Demon Sea Base is not much different from the large cities over 100 years ago. Many scientists have replaced electricity with elemental energy. There are even elemental air conditioners, elemental cars, and elemental elevators. The entire Demon Sea Base is covered by a massive elemental array that repels beasts. To enter, one needs identity verification. Every person from Linhai Large Base has an elemental identity card, which allows them to freely enter and leave Demon Sea Base. Elemental identity card. Yi Tian finally understood why he couldn't enter Demon Sea Base alone. Entry was impossible without an elemental identity card, only by accompanying Martial Pavilion warriors could he enter. Master Yu, when is the next time people from Martial Pavilion will arrive? Yi Tian asked the question that concerned him most. In a month, Yu Zhang answered.